She spent 5 years in a hospital, blind, slowly fading away. She never got to finish her favorite novel. She never got to fall in love. She never got to live, and then she died. And woke up as the girl on the cover of that very novel. Pink curls, sky blue eyes, a maid calling her milady, which would be perfect, except she woke up as the villain. The girl everyone despises. The one who manipulates, schemes, and according to the original story, destroys everything she touches. And the man she's supposed to have wronged the most? The cold, ruthless Duke Cedric, the one who by all rights should hate her. And for a long time, he did. So then why? After everything she put him through, after every reason he had to walk away, did he pull her close and refuse to let go? What exactly did this villain do to make the Duke forget he was supposed to hate her? She thinks 23 is way too young to die, but death feels like the only relief left. After getting a rare disease, she spent 5 years in the hospital. One by one, her senses started disappearing, beginning with her sight. Losing her vision hurt most because she could never finish her favorite novel. She couldn't understand why she had to suffer so much if she was going to die anyway. But after dying, she opened her eyes again, now inside that very novel as its heroine. The first thing she noticed was how nice her blanket smelled. She wondered why, then jolted upright. She could smell again. She shook her head, stunned that she could actually feel things again. It was the scent of roses. Trying to understand what was happening, she looked around. She found herself in a room she didn't know. Then someone knocked and called her Ariel, asking if she was awake. A maid came in with a tray and wished her good morning. Ariel was stunned when the maid cheerfully asked what bath scent she wanted today, milady. She couldn't understand why a hospital worker was dressed like that, or why she was being called Lady Ariel. Looking at the tray, she noticed a strange jelly-like item with a rose inside. She stared at it, realizing she was seeing it for the first time. When she touched it, she was shocked. It felt like standing in a flower garden. She couldn't remember ever smelling something this amazing, while the maid watched her oddly. The maid asked if something was wrong since she was acting strange. Ariel said she was just enjoying the scent, which only confused the maid more. The maid dropped to her feet, thinking that polite answer was actually sarcasm. Ariel quickly tried to calm her, saying she wasn't upset. Then her eyes dropped to the tray. Looking at her reflection, she didn't recognize the face staring back. The maid looked uneasy, afraid to say too much. Ariel was horrified. She looked completely different, too shocked to think straight. She asked for a mirror. In it, she saw pink curls, bright sky-colored eyes, and pale skin. She knew that face at once. It was the girl from the cover of her favorite novel. There was no way she was wrong. Still in shock, she asked what name the maid had called her, and the answer came back. Ariel. Her heart dropped. She asked again, terrified to hear the heroine's name. A nervous laugh slipped out. Then Ariel burst into wild, shaky laughter, scaring the maid beside her. She remembered that Ariel was the name of the novel's antagonist. That meant she was doomed. This character died early, publicly hanged. What people knew about Ariel was simple. She was a genius perfumer. Her talent centered on the scent of a demonic flower called Onyxia. That scent was something Cedric Evans needed. In the story, Cedric asked Ariel to make a perfume with that flower's scent. She succeeded and created a one-of-a-kind fragrance. But Ariel wanted payment. She demanded Cedric date her in return. He had little choice, but she expected a real relationship. Instead, he rejected her. After ending things, he began seeing another woman. Ariel's obsession got worse, and she tried to kill the heroine with poisoned perfume. She was caught and publicly hanged for attempted murder. Staring at the mirror, Ariel knew that future was waiting for her. As the maids dressed her, she kept remembering the novel and panicking. Then she realized this was her second chance, and she refused to throw it away. So she started thinking about the first step to avoid death. That same day, she had a meeting with Cedric. When he called her name, she smiled and answered. Then she bluntly said it was time to end their relationship. If she wanted to survive, she had to break things off first. Ariel stood and told him she no longer liked him, so this was over. Cedric tried to stop her, saying not to rush off because he had something to say. She only smiled and said she'd send the perfume through a messenger. They never needed to meet again. Joking, she added that he wouldn't turn into a mad dog just because she left without regrets. Cedric looked at her and asked her to repeat that last part. She realized she'd used the nickname from when she read the novel, and quickly apologized. After saying all she needed to, Ariel left the restaurant. Once outside, she understood why the original Ariel was obsessed. Cedric was incredibly handsome. Still, dying over him was ridiculous. She decided that if they were done, then her death flag should be gone too, and she could finally live this new life. She stormed out, shouting that she was finally free. When she got back to the palace, she saw a tall man in a dark suit waiting there. The servants all bowed and didn't dare look up. The stern man turned out to be Ariel's father. He immediately asked if she'd seen Cedric again. Then he started yelling that she was ruining the family name and becoming a laughingstock. He flatly told her that Lord Evans would never want her. Ariel quickly blurted out that she and Cedric had broken up. She insisted there was nothing to worry about. It was over for good. Everyone, even the servants, was stunned by how loudly she said it. But instead of praising her, her father laughed and said it was about time Cedric dumped her. She tried to say it was mutual, but he refused to believe it, especially since she seemed too calm. Finally losing patience, Ariel snapped that she was the one who ended it. Her father told her to stop pretending and called it another bid for attention. But when Ariel said she'd lost interest in Cedric, he completely lost it. He asked if she had a fever. Like, that was the only explanation. Ariel told him to stop. She wasn't sick, just tired and wanted to rest. Her father was nearly speechless hearing her talk back like that. Even exhausted, Ariel still needed to visit the perfumery. She had her maid escort her there, then told her to leave. The maid was shocked that her mistress was telling her to go rest. Still, she bowed and thanked Ariel. Inside, Ariel found a large table and shelves packed with jars of fragrances. She began checking the jars and touching everything. When she opened one and sniffed it, a strong fragrance hit her. It was the rich, sweet smell of blooming roses. It smelled wonderful, but it was so strong that Ariel started coughing. Tears filled her eyes as she remembered how long she'd lived without smell. In her old life, she'd wanted to become a perfumer and worked hard for it. Before getting sick, she had studied chemistry. She shook her head, deciding not to dwell on the past. Then Ariel started searching for something specific in the room. Her eyes landed on a half-open chocolate box. She opened it fully and smiled. She'd found it. Inside was the notebook where novel Ariel wrote down her perfume recipes. When she opened it, one formula stood out right away. It was a recipe for a scent meant to kill the heroine. Horrified, Ariel turned the page. There she found the love potion Ariel had made to make Cedric fall for her. She kept flipping. This still wasn't what she wanted. Then she found it at last. A perfume in a purple bottle. It carried the scent of the demonic flower onyxia. This rare flower would sometimes appear on members of the royal family, so many people wanted it for its unique scent. But more importantly, that scent was the only thing that could calm Cedric. When he tried to shut it out, a tragedy followed. Ariel knew that couldn't be allowed to happen again. Then she was interrupted by news that a guest from the Evans estate had arrived. That caught her off guard. A tall man with chestnut hair and an easy smile appeared at the door. Ariel guessed he was Cedric's advisor. He apologized for coming so late. Ariel politely said that was fine and asked why he'd come. He handed her a small box, explaining she'd left it at the restaurant. Inside were the blue roses she'd used earlier that day. The advisor said his master had asked him to return it. Ariel was surprised, since Cedric normally didn't care about forgotten things like this. She lowered her eyes and thanked him. Then the cheerful advisor asked if she'd heard the latest news. A festival would begin next weekend in the Maitland area. He said the streets would be crowded, so they should send a carriage. Ariel wondered why Cedric's people would still escort her. Then she realized the advisor didn't know they'd broken up. Ariel told him she no longer needed to see Cedric on weekends. She was already annoyed at having to say it again. The advisor asked if she'd changed her mind. Ariel made it clear. She wasn't planning a wedding. Ariel asked them to send the onyxia perfume to the Duke's estate. The advisor wanted her to bring it herself, but Ariel said the servants could handle it. He bowed and took his leave. Then Ariel gave the box to a maid and told her to throw it out. Back at Cedric Evans's estate, the advisor announced he had returned. He looked up when he heard Ariel didn't regret the breakup at all. He said she wasn't upset. If anything, she seemed happy and had no second thoughts. Cedric smirked, thinking the whole relationship had always moved by Ariel's rules. So of course she wanted to end it her way too. The advisor admitted Ariel had acted strangely. She didn't complain that he was late or wait around expecting anything. He found it hard to believe this was the same girl who had clung to Cedric for a whole year. So there had to be a real reason for the breakup. He guessed maybe Cedric had offended Lady Ariel somehow. But the only thing Cedric had done was show up 10 minutes late. The advisor then asked if maybe the breakup was actually good news for him. That only made Cedric snap and demand he say that again. The advisor kept going. Cedric never loved Ariel and only stayed with her because of the promised perfume. He couldn't understand what changed, since Ariel had once used perfume as her main way to win over the man she was obsessed with. He suggested again that maybe she had simply fallen out of love, and there didn't have to be some big reason. Cedric shut that down, saying obsession like hers doesn't just disappear after lasting a whole year. He still didn't know why she broke things off, but somehow it felt like the situation was shifting in his favor. Even so, Cedric couldn't understand why being dumped by Ariel bothered him this much when he never loved her. He turned away and complained that the room smelled bad. Then he sent the advisor off to have cold water brought in. For several days, Ariel stayed in the perfumery, going through her notebook and the recipes she'd written before all this. As she read, memories buried by illness slowly started coming back. She tested scent after scent, mixing one formula after another. At last, she made the perfume she had been trying so hard to create. Ariel checked her notes again, making sure every ingredient matched. She also found strange formulas, scents that could heal internal injuries or draw people in. That made her realize her gift with perfume was almost like magic. Next, she made a fragrance meant to wipe away fatigue with one spray. She tested it on herself first. Ariel felt nothing, but one of the maids asked to try it too. Ariel smiled and agreed since the maid had been helping her all along. After Ariel sprayed her, the maid took a breath and shut her eyes, waiting. A second later, she burst into motion, saying she suddenly felt full of energy. Ariel was stunned by how fast it worked. The maid rushed back to work, mixing petals just to burn off the extra energy. She even shouted that she needed more to do. Then they realized they had run out of ingredients, so they headed to the Sinan district to buy more. When they arrived, Ariel was surprised by how lively the place was. They picked out all kinds of flowers with different scents. Then Ariel tripped and dropped everything she was carrying. A group of ladies nearby looked over and sneered that those flowers would never be enough. One of them said blossoms that plain would never catch Cedric's eye. They laughed, saying they heard Ariel had stormed out of their date just because Cedric was busy. Ariel only smiled, seeing they were trying to provoke her. She thanked them for being so worried about her. As she gathered the flowers, she calmly said there was no need. She and Cedric had already broken up. The girl with the fan looked shocked by how blunt she was. The others started fake pitying her, saying Cedric had been cruel to dump her. Then they added that after a long relationship like that, no one else would want her. Ariel smiled and said that was an insult to Cedric. She told them breakups aren't strange at all, and Cedric would be just fine after this. They were stunned when they realized Ariel was the one who ended it. To prove it, she asked the snobby girl to introduce her to some young lord. She said she'd rather meet someone sweet and kind than an icy duke. The lady stared, thinking Ariel had to be joking. She said she'd remember those words and walked off with the others. Ariel smirked, feeling like that problem was finally over. Meanwhile, Cedric received a package from Ariel. He saw that she had kept her word and sent the perfumes he needed. The advisor urged him to inspect them carefully since Ariel had sent love potions before. Cedric ignored that, sprayed one on himself, and immediately saw how skilled Ariel really was. He started wondering what formula she had used, since her earlier perfumes never worked. Then he found a false bottom in the box with another set of perfumes inside, the ones meant to fight fatigue. There was also a note explaining what they did. He picked up the bottle, thinking it might be another trick to charm someone. So Cedric decided to test whether Ariel had mixed something suspicious into it. Instead of using it on himself, he sprayed the advisor. The man said it felt like lying in a warm field with a soft breeze washing over him. Then he started running around again, saying he had to get back to work because he was overflowing with energy. Cedric found the reaction funny, then finally read the note. Ariel only had a little of the perfume left and wondered if it would be enough. Holding the notebook, she realized those pages were worth a fortune. The maids called Ariel downstairs, saying her father was waiting with something important. When she came in, he said he needed to speak with her. Ariel walked over to the table where the head of the family sat, looking serious. He told her to sit down. After wiping his face with a napkin, he said he had an announcement. Then he bluntly told her she needed to get married right away. That shocked Ariel, especially since she had only just broken up with Cedric. He explained that rumors about the split had already spread. Now a proposal had come from the son of a wealthy currency importer. Her father said she needed to marry him and give the family a son. Ariel was turning 23, so by noble standards, she was more than old enough to marry. For women in aristocratic families, marriage was often just politics. A chill ran through her. She had been given a second chance at life, and she didn't want to be handed to a stranger. While Ariel worried, her father was calmly thinking the man was at least good-looking. Tall, slim, handsome. It all sounded fine to him, but Ariel wanted something else. She tried to explain that she wanted some freedom first. Her father asked what she wanted, saying he'd grant any wish if it would protect the family's reputation. He repeated that he'd indulge her, as long as she accepted the proposal. Ariel smiled and asked for a lot of money this month. Her father grimaced at that. He said he'd heard she had gone back to her old hobby. To him, perfumery was a silly little pastime with no real value. Even so, he offered her 20,000 bis for one date with the suitor. Smiling, Ariel agreed right away. Her new fiancé candidate was actually a minor character from the novel. He was the same man who had drugged and kidnapped the heroine. The moment Ariel saw his smile and the dark circles under his eyes, she wanted to run. He looked unstable and clearly messed up on something. So she asked about the awful smell coming from him. He asked what she meant, and Ariel said his scent was strange. He replied that he smelled something odd too and suggested calling the manager. Ariel started searching through her purse for her new perfume. The man seemed impressed, saying he'd heard she collected perfumes and found it interesting. While he tried to flatter her, Ariel sprayed the perfume right in his face. Then she apologized, saying his smell had been unbearable. He went completely still, staring at one spot after the scent hit him. Ariel waved a hand in front of his face, trying to snap him out of it. Then he suddenly broke into a huge smile and eagerly asked what she had sprayed on him. He said the feeling was familiar. With a crazed grin, he blurted out that it was an aphrodisiac. That made Ariel remember that drug users can react to smells very differently. So this suitor was nothing like her father claimed. In fact, he was far worse. He said he had never met such a bold woman, and that most others would have run away. Then he started rambling that he could pick up on hints better than other boys. Frightened, Ariel pulled her hand back and shouted for him not to touch her. It was clear now. He wasn't just odd, he was completely unhinged, and somehow he seemed to enjoy all of this. Turning away, Ariel became sure the smell on him was from drugs. Everything about him screamed addict and madman. Then the blonde man grabbed her hand again, smiling as he said that if they were on the same wavelength, there was no reason to wait. Terrified, Ariel refused to go anywhere with him and screamed for a waiter to help. The waiter froze, and Ariel told him to get security because the man was crossing the line. She was horrified when he grabbed her hand and pressed it to his chest. The lunatic said his heart was beating for her. Ariel quietly decided to fix that perfume recipe once she got home. The blonde man told the waiter Ariel was only shy and not in any danger. Then Cedric showed up at the entrance. Seeing Ariel being harassed, he stared at them with open hostility. Jealous and furious, he made it clear no one could touch his ex without her consent. He seized the creep by the arm and demanded to know what was happening. The man panicked and cried that His Highness had misunderstood. He hurried to explain that he and Ariel were simply on a date. Ariel watched it all, trying not to get dragged deeper into the mess. The man insisted the blonde one was the crazy one. Cedric took Ariel's hand and pulled her away. He asked what he could do to help her calm down. Then, with a hand near his dagger, he coldly asked if stabbing the lunatic would help. The man dropped to his knees and begged for mercy. He tried to claim Ariel was just making a scene by rejecting him, but no one bought it. Cedric kicked the noble brat in the chest hard enough to knock him down, then said the Marquis had failed to teach him manners. When the guards arrived, he ordered them to take the man away. Then Cedric turned to Ariel and asked what she was doing there, and she asked him the same thing. He wanted to know why she had been meeting a man like that. Ariel said her father had pushed her to meet the Marquis's son. She admitted that if she'd known how bad it would get, she never would have come. With an awkward smile, she thanked him. Cedric was clearly stunned. They had only just broken up, and she was already looking at other men as husbands. Even if their relationship was a contract, it had still lasted over 6 months. He said there should be some basic standards in a situation like this. According to him, she should have talked to him before jumping straight to marriage talks. Ariel quickly replied that their relationship had only been a burden to him anyway. He answered with a dark look that showed his feelings weren't gone at all. Since they had been a famous public couple, rumors would explode if she appeared with another man right after the breakup. Ariel understood it wasn't easy for him either and that she still had to be careful. So she bowed and asked for forgiveness. Then Cedric asked how long she'd planned to date him before moving on, especially after being so fixated on him before. The truth was, Ariel had never thought that far ahead. She wasn't even sure she had a choice. She already knew she could never become Duchess Evans. Then, almost like he didn't want to lose her, Cedric asked if she'd changed her mind about ending things. Ariel just smiled and said she hadn't changed it at all. Cedric accepted that if this was what she wanted, he shouldn't fight it, and he apologized for asking. He also mentioned that her perfume had been useful and had helped his assistant, but he left before she could ask how well Anixia's perfumes had worked. Ariel figured no news probably meant things were fine. Back at the castle, her father was furious after getting a letter from the Marquis estate. Ariel felt both scared and guilty, wondering what it said. Once he learned his daughter had sent the man's son to jail, he ripped the letter apart. Ariel said the man got what he deserved and the guards had handled it. Her father demanded to know why Cedric and that man had fought at the restaurant. Ariel said Cedric hadn't done anything worth getting angry at. She explained that the other man had insulted her honor. According to Ariel, he claimed she had sprayed perfume on him to seduce him. Her father grew even angrier, certain she had caused this somehow. Ariel tried to explain she only sprayed him because he smelled terrible. Her father snapped that she needed to drop this awful hobby. As gossip about the incident spread across the kingdom, he was losing his mind. He said no one would want to marry Ariel after this. Then he ordered her to go to the security office at once, apologize, and beg for Rob's release. Ariel answered that even if she wanted to, she couldn't do that. Cedric himself had ordered the arrest, and stepping in would be improper. Once her father heard the Duke was involved, he knew his hands were tied. So he declared he had to find her a husband fast, before the rumors ruined the family's name. Ariel couldn't believe he thought that was a good idea. Luckily for him, he already had another letter tucked away, from Olgan. Ariel's first question was simple. How old was this new suitor? When she heard he was 40, she was stunned. Her father had fully decided to marry her off for profit. She let out a sigh and asked if she really had to marry a rich man right away. He said yes. He had spent money raising her for exactly this purpose. In that moment, Ariel realized what she was to him, just a bargaining chip to bring the family more money and power. She took the letter and apologized, saying that for now she was only interested in handsome men her own age. Then she promised that if she couldn't marry rich, she'd repay the losses herself. Her father smirked and asked how exactly she planned to do that. As far as he was concerned, the only thing she knew how to do was spend money. He wasn't wrong about her lacking sword skills or mana control, but Ariel did have one talent: perfumery. Her father might treat it like a joke, but her perfumes were powerful. So Ariel decided to buy the flower shop. The problem was she was short 500,000. She wanted to become independent from her family's money, but that seemed impossible. Even selling all her clothes and jewelry wouldn't cover it, and she refused to end up with a little street stall. Seeing her troubled face, the maid asked what was wrong. Ariel started explaining it like a made-up story about someone who desperately needed money. Then she asked the maid for advice because she truly needed it. The maid suggested borrowing money, which made Ariel wonder who she could ask. The servant said she could always go to the head steward. Ariel tried to pretend it was for a friend, but the maid quickly realized she meant herself. Then a gray-haired stranger suddenly offered his opinion about starting a business. He advised her to find an investor. It would make things much easier. The man said he knew who Ariel was and didn't want to offend her. That was when Ariel realized she was better known than she thought, as a talented perfumer. The maid asked how he knew so much, since he worked at the flower shop where Ariel bought ingredients. The gray-haired man proudly said all the flower sellers knew her, and other perfumers often praised her skills. Ariel realized she could use her perfume formulas to attract an investor, and the sooner she found one, the sooner she could start her business. She grabbed his hands and thanked him. Walking off with a satisfied smile, Ariel said she had found her answer. The maid agreed it was a great idea and hurried after her. It seemed Ariel already knew where to look for an investor. She headed for the big social event where powerful, well-known nobles gathered. The best place was the season's most popular ball. Among all those rich guests, someone was bound to invest in perfume. But when she arrived, people gave her strange looks because of the rumors. Ariel couldn't understand the mood. The balls used to be fun. People whispered that she had no shame, had bothered the Duke, and even gotten poor Mr. Robb thrown in jail. Then a girl deliberately shoved Ariel and claimed she hadn't seen her. Ariel forced a nervous laugh and let it pass, even though she knew it was on purpose. She couldn't understand why her reputation had fallen so badly when people used to respect her. With the room like this, she wouldn't even get the chance to introduce herself. Then a young woman stepped in and said Ariel hadn't sent Mr. Marcel to jail. Cedric had. If anyone had a complaint, she said, they should take it up with his lordship. After that, she told the crowd to stop spreading rumors. That girl turned out to be Charlotte Zenos. As Marcel's only child, Charlotte held great influence. Because of her status, people were always around the Marquis's daughter. Her beauty only added to that attention. As the queen of high society events, Charlotte set the trends. Ariel realized all this trouble had actually brought her closer to Charlotte. Charlotte walked up and asked if Ariel was all right. Ariel saw her chance and said the room felt a little stuffy. Charlotte sniffed and asked if Lady Ariel had used too much perfume. She said Ariel smelled like a cherry orchard. Ariel smiled, thanked her for helping, and admitted she wasn't fully sure about the scent since it was her first time making one like it. Charlotte asked if Ariel had made it herself, and Ariel started to explain. She even offered Charlotte a new perfume as thanks. Charlotte politely refused, saying her body couldn't handle perfume. She was allergic to alcohol, which Ariel already knew. The novel had mentioned Charlotte's perfume sensitivity several times. Ariel smiled and said these perfumes were made without alcohol. Charlotte's surprise made Ariel happy, especially since this was her first try, and it had gone really well. Ariel asked her to test it so she could understand what she meant. Charlotte gave a doubtful little smile but agreed. Ariel sprayed some on her wrist, and a sweet lilac scent spread out. Charlotte said it felt like standing in a field of flowers. Ariel explained that she used a tool to pull out perfume mana, so even people with allergies could wear it. Then she asked if that was the real reason Ariel came to the ball. Charlotte quickly guessed Ariel was looking for an investor. She explained her guess. Ariel first called it a hobby, but the result was too polished for that, so she must have come to get Charlotte's attention. She pointed out that Ariel was also using Charlotte's love of perfume as a way to advertise. Charlotte clearly saw that these perfumes had been made with her in mind. That sharp praise left Ariel red-faced and flustered. Charlotte told her not to be embarrassed. Anyone would love a perfume like this. She added that Ariel might not be great at selling, but the product itself was. Still, Charlotte made it clear that praise didn't mean she would invest. Instead, she invited Ariel to her family's ball, where many rich guests would be attending. Ariel was stunned by the invitation and looked away, even more embarrassed. Elsewhere, an advisor asked Cedric if he planned to attend the ball. He replied that Cedric should send Charlotte his confirmation. As the maids helped Ariel get ready, they asked if she was nervous. Ariel hadn't told Lena anything because she didn't want her to worry, though she still didn't know what to do if trouble started again. One maid asked who would be at the ball and why Ariel was going. Then she tried to cheer her up, saying her perfume was the best. She insisted Ariel only had to speak up if anyone gave her trouble. Ariel smiled, noticing the maid was acting a little strange. She reminded herself she'd already gotten through one awful evening, and this time she wouldn't accept that treatment. Ariel decided she would start changing how people saw her. Soon she was fully dressed and ready. She went in with a few rules, starting with approaching people first, so she wouldn't seem hostile. She needed them to see she wasn't an enemy, just a businesswoman looking for an investor. But her nerves got the better of her, and she spoke unclearly, stumbling over her words. The moment people heard her last name, they grimaced and asked her to repeat herself. Then they brushed her off, saying they were busy and she should leave. At least no one openly scolded her, and she did manage to introduce herself, so she kept trying, pushing herself to approach more people. But every person Ariel tried to talk to looked at her with suspicion. In the end, she sat alone in a corner, feeling shut out. Ariel couldn't understand why they treated her like she'd done something terrible. She had no idea how to stop the looks people gave her after hearing her name. Then Charlotte came over and asked if she was enjoying the evening. Ariel admitted she still hadn't managed to get a real conversation started. Charlotte smiled and said she thought she knew the problem. Lifting Ariel's chin, she asked what value Ariel could offer everyone here. That was hard in a room full of rich nobles and business-minded guests. Charlotte explained that money mattered most at an event like this. These people didn't know Ariel's talent with sense, so the only thing that would catch them was profit. That finally made it click for Ariel. If she wanted to be seen as a businesswoman seeking support, she had to present the perfumes first, not herself. Maybe someone else was the main character, but to her, Ariel was the real star. Charlotte declared that she loved the perfumes and wanted more of them. She was right. Ariel needed to let the perfumes shine. Ariel turned toward the same guests who had been sneering at her. She sprayed the perfume, said she made it herself, and invited them to try it. One lady decided to test it first. She loved it right away. The scent and its effect were amazing. Soon others said it smelled even better than real flowers. Ariel smiled and thanked them. Then she announced that she planned to open her own shop where people could try more perfumes like these. She quickly added that she'd need a lot of funding. When someone came up behind her, a bob-haired girl asked what was happening. She wanted to know who made the perfume and learned it was Ariel. Charlotte remarked that the two of them might get along well. This new lady clearly knew more about perfume. Ariel was surprised to find the woman was also still learning, so she thought they might become friendly rivals. Ariel awkwardly confirmed that she had made the perfume herself. The other woman instantly called it a cheap, low-quality mess. Ariel was stunned by the blunt attack and couldn't understand it. If this girl was so skilled, shouldn't she know what the perfume lacked? After all, this was Ariel's first product made for sale. She thought maybe the woman could point out flaws and actually help her improve. With an awkward smile, Ariel asked her to repeat that. The rival repeated every insult without hesitation. Still staying polite, Ariel smiled and asked her to explain the mistakes since she seemed so talented. The girl looked away and said a refreshing perfume should have a citrus base. She added that lemon and orange were the key ingredients. Then she said scents like this never lasted long. Ariel asked how that was any different from normal citrus perfumes, since those faded fast too. The self-proclaimed expert shot back, asking what made Ariel's scent special. She demanded to try it before writing it off as ordinary. People around them started giggling, saying an expert like Lady Magnus couldn't be wrong. Some even said Lady Ariel should learn from Lady Magnus. Ariel realized the crowd had chosen a side, and it wasn't hers, so she knew she had to fight for her perfume's worth. She quickly took the bottle back from Magnus. Ariel said she'd first introduce the scent properly, then explain the rest. She was about to spray it at her rival when the night's main guest arrived. Charlotte greeted Cedric. He thanked the ladies for the invitation. Cedric turned out to be the main investor, the one meant to take over a business. When he turned and saw Ariel, she tensed at the sight of her ex. He asked what they were discussing. The rival answered that they were talking about Lady Ariel's perfume. She began complaining that such a cheap scent had no place at this event. Cedric stepped in to defend Ariel. He asked if Magnus had even tried spraying it. Then he said Ariel's perfumes had a unique effect. He explained that his subordinate became far more productive because of them, and still liked using them. Looking at Magnus, he asked if she could make something like that. Then he told her not to speak carelessly about things she didn't understand. Ariel was surprised that Cedric defended her at all, but she was also annoyed. She didn't need saving. She needed her perfume recognized. The other ladies quickly changed their tune, saying that if Cedric defended her, then Lady Winston's perfumes must be worth attention. Ariel looked away and said she needed to step out for a moment. She left the ball to think of a new plan. Cedric watched her go and asked why she was leaving. Ariel thought that if Magnus crossed her again, she'd make them all write a whole book praising her perfume. Still, She felt she'd had enough for one night and wanted to go home to adjust the recipe. Then Cedric's sharp voice stopped her. He stepped closer, looking worried. Ariel asked why he was suddenly focused on her when the evening was still going strong. Cedric seemed awkward after seeing her rush off. It was strange for someone like him to care that her mood had been ruined. Ariel reminded herself to stay firm and keep her distance. Then she told him plainly that what he did made her uncomfortable. They had already broken up, so he had no reason to interfere in her life. She asked if he had really ended things or not. Ariel said he had crossed the line and that she could have handled Lady Magnus herself. His interference had ruined her plan. Even as she said it, Ariel felt uneasy. She wasn't sure Cedric would understand. Just then, his advisor brought over some documents and said His Highness had acted too soon. Then he asked if Cedric's actions had caused trouble. Cedric looked honestly flustered. The advisor asked why he acted on impulse without thinking about others. He couldn't make sense of the Duke's behavior. It looked like someone had really scolded him. He instantly took that back, because who would dare lecture the Duke? Then he guessed it had to be about Lady Winston. Asked how he knew, he said she was often the reason for Cedric's bad moods. He told Cedric to share the problem since he might have some advice. Cedric admitted that seeing Ariel upset made him want to help. Even he couldn't understand why he had followed her. He said Ariel looked upset, so he couldn't just stand by. He carefully remembered her angry face and how she called him selfish. The advisor was stunned. Lady Winston had actually spoken badly about His Highness. Cedric admitted it really bothered him. The blonde advisor realized Cedric had a soft spot for Ariel and found it kind of cute. Still, he said Ariel had changed a lot, so Cedric had nothing to fear. Then the advisor suggested he apologize to Lady Winston. He explained that even if Cedric meant well, stepping in like that could still upset her. Cedric looked away, sighed, and agreed to apologize to Ariel. He wrote a letter and ordered it sent to the Winston estate at dawn. A maid brought Ariel Cedric's letter with a sweet smile. In it, he admitted he had been very tactless at the party. He said her words made him think, and he wanted to meet and apologize properly. Cedric invited her to a restaurant for that apology. Ariel arrived by carriage. She thought maybe she had gone too far yesterday. No one usually spoke to Cedric like that, so he was probably shaken. Still, an apology wouldn't hurt, so she came. Even so, Ariel felt nervous. She didn't want to hurt someone, then end up getting hurt back. She asked the carriage to stop so she could walk. The driver pointed out where the restaurant was. Since she still had time, Ariel decided to walk around first. Then she heard an unpleasant click. Someone had snapped a photo of her from behind and was hiding in the crowd. When Ariel noticed the camera, she was first surprised, then scared. She shouted at the man to put it away at once, drawing attention from everyone nearby. The stranger reacted oddly and ran. Ariel managed to grab the camera. She couldn't understand why he bolted so fast. It made no sense. Realizing he was escaping, she quickly came up with a plan. She chased after him, yelling for people to stop that pervert. He kept running and shouted that he was only following orders. Then Cedric appeared and tripped him, sending him to the ground. That gave Ariel the chance to catch up. Cedric asked what this man had done. Ariel was too out of breath to answer right away. He suggested they sort it out inside the restaurant. They forced the man to his knees and accused him of taking photos of people without permission. Ariel said she had caught the camera he threw while trying to flee. Cedric decided to check what was on it. Inside were several explicit photos of himself. He said he had an idea what was going on and would look into it. Ariel stayed calm, since there was only one picture of her. But when Cedric found that photo too, he frowned hard. He ordered the guards to be told so the man could be punished. The stranger was taken away, leaving Ariel confused. Cedric lowered his head and apologized. He blamed himself. He had arranged this meeting to apologize, yet only caused her more trouble and now had to apologize again. Ariel couldn't understand why he kept saying sorry for everything. She looked away and said she was fine, so he didn't need to worry. Then Ariel smiled and admitted she had been rude too and wanted to apologize. Cedric said he had never treated her with the respect she deserved and had much to make up for. He added that even if their relationship began as a contract, he still failed to care for her. He also said some of the trouble she faced after the breakup was partly his fault, so he offered her compensation. Ariel was startled because money would be very useful right now. With a snap of his fingers, Cedric assigned her a personal guard. He said Erna would protect Ariel well and was worth trusting with his life. When the helmet came off, Ariel saw her bodyguard was very handsome. The knight told Lady Winston she could rely on him. Cedric, clearly jealous, told him to put the helmet back on. A knight shouldn't show his face so easily. Ariel objected, saying it would be far too hot to keep it on. She didn't get why Cedric had given her his own knight, and he replied that he could protect himself, but Ariel might need help again. To Ariel, that sounded strange, and a little hurtful, though she admitted things would be worse if it happened again. Still, the knight was well known, so she could trust him. Ariel said she'd accept this kindness for now as compensation. She smiled and told Cedric he could take the guard back once she recovered, since she could handle herself. At that, Cedric dropped to one knee. He took her hand, kissed it, and asked her to keep looking after him. Ariel smiled, then shyly said she had to go and hurried off. Cedric asked if he should escort her, but she said no. She wasn't a child. Then she added that her carriage was parked nearby. She told him not to worry because Aaron was with her, which made Cedric frown so clearly she couldn't miss it. Just as Ariel was about to leave, Cedric stopped her again. This time, he wanted to talk about the onyxia scent. He said he wanted to change their contract, catching Ariel off guard. She instantly wondered if there had been a problem with the delivery. Then she even suspected he might lower the price because he was giving her a bodyguard. But when he brought up payment, he said he would double it. In return, he wanted them to go back to meeting twice a week. Cedric said he could pay even more since the order was complicated. Ariel had no idea why he was suddenly acting like this. Still, onyxia perfume was one of her biggest assets, and with more money, she could open a shop much sooner. So Ariel smiled and gladly agreed, ready to make the most of his kindness. She flashed Cedric another smile, waved, and said she'd be waiting for their next meeting. Cedric only told her to be careful on the way home. When Aaron arrived at the estate, the head maid had plenty of questions. Ariel told her not to be scared of the 2-meter-tall man. Aaron nodded and introduced himself as the bodyguard sent by the Duke. The maid smiled, pleased to hear Ariel now had protection. She marched up to him and said now they could punish any villain who threatened her lady. Ariel was stunned, though she muttered that luckily they'd probably get along. Raphael entered with the ingredients delivered that day and said he had already left them in the workshop. As Ariel stepped into the perfumery, a clean, fresh scent cleared her mind. She reached for the pine branches and released their crisp smell. Then the maid urged her to grind them right away. This time, they used a magic device to extract the essence. Ariel decided she first needed to choose what this new scent was meant to do. Behind her, Aaron watched closely. The fragrance was clear, pure, and refreshing, the kind her new bodyguard loved. Looking at him, Ariel realized she had her concept. She took Aaron's hand and asked for his help. He immediately got flustered. When he came in dressed for her plan, everyone stared. Ariel had bought him expensive clothes, calling it a smart investment, and honestly, they suited him well. Aaron asked why she was doing all this, and Ariel told him not to act so stiff around her. He wondered why she thought he'd be useful at all. Ariel said the answer was obvious. He was perfect for her plan. She decided Aaron would become the face of the high society club. Then she sprayed the new perfume on his wrist. It was called Morning Walk, made with cedar, bergamot, bamboo, and fresh lemon. Aaron was truly impressed by her skill. Then a man entered the hall saying he hadn't met Ariel yet and wanted to fix that. Ariel quickly went over and introduced herself as a perfumer. He said he knew of her because she had made Lady Charlotte's perfume. Ariel said she was honored to be recognized. The man added that the lilac fragrance had completely charmed him. After smelling Aaron's wrist, he guessed that this fresh, amazing scent was also Ariel's work. Aaron simply confirmed it. The man praised the perfume, saying it felt like standing in a pine forest and brought a deep sense of peace. And on Mr. Sowell, it felt even stronger. Then the long-haired man said he was very interested and might wear Ariel's perfume himself. Ariel started to explain that this scent wouldn't fit her own image if she wore it. She asked if he knew that fragrance can reveal a lot about a person. A lively scent suggests energy. A warm one suggests tenderness, and a rich scent leaves a strong impression. She added that if he wore this one, it would suit his face and eyes just as well as it suited the bodyguard. The men practically threw money at her, asking where they could buy the perfumes. One of them immediately said he'd take 3 bottles. Ariel knew they were VIPs from a high society club, so word about her perfume would spread fast. Thrilled by the sale, she promised to send the orders straight to the estate. Elsewhere, a woman in a perfume shop had splashed herself with several bottles. She trembled with rage, grinding her teeth. She shouted that Ariel Winston was causing her endless trouble. Ever since people stopped paying attention to her, everything had gone wrong. Investors kept demanding magical spirits, not understanding that she couldn't make them, while Ariel somehow could. Even the land she had dismissed suddenly shot up in value. So opening a salon there might now be a terrible move. She was nearly mad with hatred after Ariel embarrassed her in front of the investors. She swore she would never forgive Ariel and would make her pay no matter what. A figure appeared behind the woman and asked if she was Magnus. He smiled and said Ariel really had humiliated her in front of everyone. Magnus asked who he was, and he told her not to be so cold. Then he suggested they join forces against Ariel. But Magnus refused to agree to anything before she knew who he was. He pulled back his hood and introduced himself as Ozzy, the Empire's 5th prince. She was stunned that a prince wanted to help her go after her biggest enemy. When she asked why, he said he hated Cedric Evans. He showed her photos and kept trashing Evans. The pictures were so blatant that she could only grimace. Still shocked, she asked why he was targeting Mr. Evans. He said he'd spent a long time looking for Cedric's weak spot and found none. Magnus said that made sense since Cedric looked like the perfect duke. but then he said he had finally discovered who Ariel Winston was to him. Cedric's one true weakness was Ariel. He added that the two had recently broken up, which surprised her because they seemed close. He said their relationship had always been questionable, so he decided to win Ariel over with his looks. Magnus called that ridiculous, but he brushed it off. Love and war have no rules. He offered Fante a handshake and said he'd help her if she did everything she could to ruin Ariel's business. Once Ariel was down, he'd step in and make her fall for him. Fante decided the wild plan was harmless enough. She still couldn't tell if he actually liked Ariel or not. For him, the fun part would be watching Cedric get rejected and cry over it, and Fante liked the thought of Ariel's business collapsing and leaving her broke. They shook hands and made the deal. Smirking, he said it was time to begin. A few days later, Ariel walked through the city calling for Raphael. He greeted her, pulling his attention away from the flowers. Ariel thanked him for the ingredients and said they had helped a lot. Her new cedar-based perfume was a huge hit. In fact, it had taken over the men's fragrance market. Ariel said that if things kept going like this, she'd soon open her own store. Raphael looked awkward and asked her to come with him. He said a new salon had opened yesterday and thought she should see it. When they arrived, Ariel saw it was a new Magnus salon. She looked inside and noticed they were selling far more than perfume. For a second, she wondered if word of their feud had already spread. Raphael said seeing this place might actually help her. The salon was packed for Lady Magnus's opening. Customers liked the scents, and the prices were fair. Then Ariel spotted a perfume that smelled just like her lilac blend. It looked more and more like her work had been stolen. She checked another bottle and caught that same cedar note, another one of hers. Raphael told her to read the names. One was called Memory of First Love, another Night Walk. That was what he wanted to show her. The store had copied her work. Ariel couldn't deny it. The proof was obvious. Fante had put her treasured formulas on display like cheap imitations, all to humiliate her. Ariel burned with anger, realizing Fante had openly challenged her. Then Fante showed up with her companion and sneered that something so cheap had finally entered her luxury store. She mocked Ariel for going door to door with her goods despite being called a brilliant perfumer. Those words only made Ariel angrier. Then she looked at the man behind Magnus, smirking and nodding along. His face felt strangely familiar. When he noticed, he winked and smiled at her like he was trying to charm her. Ariel suddenly remembered. He was the fifth prince of the Beller Empire. In the book, he was known as a dazzling troublemaker and a constant headache for the Empress. Most importantly, Azzy was Cedric's nephew. And because Cedric seemed too perfect, Azzy deeply hated and envied him. He questioned Ariel, trying to figure her out. Looking straight at her, he asked if she had some complaint against him. Fante quickly bragged that an imperial prince had invested in her. Magnus piled on, mocking Ariel for being broke. Her rival smirked and said maybe someday someone would discover Ariel's talent, even if she had none. Ariel couldn't understand how Fante could sell stolen perfumes so shamelessly. She guessed Az had probably been tricked into investing. Not letting it slide, Ariel asked what had inspired Fante to create those perfumes. She pointed out that the scents felt far too familiar. Fante stayed silent, and Ariel pressed her for an answer. Az stepped in, saying Fante didn't need to explain because he had created the concept. He made up a story about being enchanted by lilacs and bamboo that day, then asked Ariel to stop bothering poor Fante. Ariel was shocked. Az wasn't fooled at all. He was working with her. Then Magnus finally admitted she knew Ariel wanted to accuse her of stealing the formulas, but she didn't care. No one would believe a woman without her own store. And with Fante's powerful investor, Ariel couldn't prove anything. Smiling, Fante made it clear Ariel should leave. Ariel realized that even a short delay would bring in a huge line. People already loved the perfumes. Az winked again, hinting they'd meet very soon. Ariel left with one clear thought. She needed her own store, and she would find an investor no matter what. Back in his quarters, the man sighed and started loosening his tie. His advisor hurried over and asked how it went. He also asked whether his master had at least eaten during the business meeting. The Duke said those talks and social gatherings were unbearable. Then the advisor shared some news. People on Sinan Street were saying Lady Ariel was looking for an investor. That made him realize why she had come to the party. The advisor said this was a great chance since the Duke himself had praised her perfume, but he said he wasn't sure Ariel would want to see him. Then he mentioned he'd heard Ariel had been dragged into some kind of trouble. From what he knew, her perfume ideas had been stolen, though he didn't know the full story. At once, he shot Rick an icy look and ordered him to learn everything about it. A maid went to wake Lady Ariel, only to find she was already in the perfumery, hard at work. There, Ariel had fallen asleep over her notebook while trying to come up with a new idea. Once awake, she drank tea while the maid cleaned her desk. Ariel thanked Rena, saying the tea brought her back to life. Rena worriedly asked if she was okay, and Ariel said she was, aside from a pounding headache and itchy nose. The maid asked how she had worked all night when she said it would only take 2 hours. Ariel said she had to. or no investor would look at them. Rena reminded her that her health still mattered. She said she'd prepare a bath, and after that, Ariel was going straight to bed. No arguing. Even if Ariel had pushed herself too far, it paid off. She finished a new product and put together a business plan. Now she only needed an investor. So Ariel decided the sleepless night had been worth it. Then the butler announced that a visitor was waiting for her. Ariel was surprised to hear it was Cedric. It was almost funny that Cedric's advisor looked just as worn out as she did. When Ariel came downstairs, she asked what brought him here. Cedric said it was urgent and apologized for arriving without notice. He added that in their relationship, urgent matters weren't limited to perfume. Then he said he'd heard her perfume formulas had been stolen. He handed her a product made from those stolen scents. Ariel was surprised the rumors had spread so fast. Looking up sadly, she asked if he believed her, or thought she might be the thief. Cedric said he'd used enough of her perfumes to know better than to fall for such cheap fakes. Then he said he'd heard she was searching for an investor and offered to become one. He already ran many businesses, and if Cedric invested, her company would have real backing. But Ariel wondered if he was only doing it out of guilt. She hated the feeling that she might be using him. Still, if this was about business, she had her own terms, and she doubted he'd object. Cedric asked to see everything she had prepared and said he'd choose what was best to support and promote. Ariel had already made a special new perfume with a rose scent. She grabbed Cedric's hand and led him to the lab, saying she could show him right away. Rena was told to get everything ready so the new investor could see exactly what he'd be funding. First, Ariel showed him the business plan she had put together in just one day. Her first goal was opening a salon, and the plan also covered her new product. She was more nervous than she expected, worried he might dislike both the plan and the perfume. But Cedric called the plan excellent and said he was impressed. Ariel admitted she hoped to supply perfumes to the palace one day and later open a second shop. Then she quickly apologized for getting carried away. Cedric brushed that off and asked if he could try the new perfume. Ariel gladly agreed, saying it was called Garden of Roses, made mainly with velvet rose and Turkish rose. She explained that it brings out a soft, pure scent and gives men a rose fragrance unlike the usual market perfumes. After she sprayed it on his wrist, the advisor said it felt like standing in a morning rose garden covered in dew. To him, it was the scent of a noble rose bush. The fragrance was so rich it almost felt like rose petals were falling around Cedric. Cedric agreed. This was a scent you couldn't find anywhere else. That praise hit Ariel differently, coming from Cedric instead of her servants. Since he liked both the plan and the perfume, Cedric said the project was so detailed it hardly seemed like a beginner's work, and Ariel had clearly proven her talent. Then he announced he would invest. Ariel promised she wouldn't let him down, and they parted looking forward to meeting again. Afterward, the advisor said their visit to the Winston estate had been worth it. Cedric had secured a great project, and maybe he'd soon see the pair grow close again. More surprising, Cedric already had someone in mind as the culprit. He said that person could cause trouble for Lady Winston, so they needed to watch him. Cedric was honestly pleased by the idea of being Lady Winston's partner and sharing her burdens. The maid happily praised Ariel and congratulated her on the shop that would open soon. Ariel replied that Night Earn had helped a lot too. Even with Cedric's support, everything was busy, so she chose to handle the shop herself. She refused to rest, feeling bad about wasting time. While wondering when Cedric would contact her, Ariel was startled when the knight and maid rushed in with news from him. The shop construction was done, so they all went to see Ariel's perfume shop. She was shocked because Cedric had said it would take at least a few months, but he had pushed for it to be finished as fast as possible. Ariel was already excited going in, and once inside, she gasped. She could hardly believe it was really her shop, and Cedric told her the second floor had been set up as living space. It even included a hall, kitchen, and a lab. Ariel had always dreamed of owning a store, and now that it was real, she was close to tears. And there was more. The shop even had a garden where she could grow perfume ingredients. While Ariel checked the plants, the maid said she wanted to try the kitchen and offered tea, but the knight apologized and said this wasn't the time. Guests were already waiting outside. Ariel was stunned. They hadn't even promoted the shop, yet a crowd had gathered. At the same time, a jealous rival watched the opening and realized she still hadn't crushed Ariel's spirit. She stormed into Callan's room and called him an idiot. In her eyes, he was all talk and no help. Magnus shouted that he had no business sleeping when all the customers were going to Ariel. The pale man replied that it was a small problem and not worth this much anger. Magnus snapped that people were lining up at Ariel's salon before the official opening, so no one would even visit her own store. And now Cedric was Ariel's investor too. The blonde man said he'd already checked the situation. She shot back that he should have taken Ariel's investors away from the start instead of wasting time, especially after promising to take Ariel under his wing. He said Fanta was too short-sighted. If you really want to ruin someone, you let them taste success first, then rip it away. Then he told her to come with him because he had a plan. By the end of the day, Ariel saw off the last customer. The opening had gone well, and the store was officially running. A week passed with Ariel spending her days serving customers and her evenings making perfume and managing the shop. She learned fast that business wasn't easy. Still, what made her happiest was seeing the money add up. Ariel figured Cedric would be pleased with the profits, but first she needed to go buy more ingredients. On the way through town, she listed what they needed: lilacs, roses, and cedar. She was about to say they'd buy everything quickly and head back when she noticed people staring at her. Then they disappeared just as fast, and Ariel realized they were avoiding her. Raphael suddenly ran up and asked if she'd noticed how strangely everyone was acting. He explained that on opening day, two shady figures in cloaks came to Flower Shop Street and tried to bribe sellers into refusing ingredients to Ariel's shop. They even offered 20 million pesos a day. Ariel instantly guessed Magnus and Callan were behind it. It made sense. Without ingredients, she couldn't make perfume, and customers would go to Magnus instead. She expected trouble, just not something this obvious. Raphael added that he refused the offer because he was on her side. Ariel said she wasn't going to accept this and would deal with it properly. Later at the table, she said she'd thought it over all night. She had two choices: pay even more to win the traders back, or grow the ingredients herself in the garden. Since they lacked the resources for the second option, the answer was clear. Then the maid asked if it was finally time for them to step in. Even if he seemed harmless, he still had royal blood, and insulting the royal family could get her arrested. Ariel was startled to find Cedric standing there. The knight admitted he was the one who called Cedric because Ariel seemed to be in real trouble. He believed His Highness could help. Ariel knew he was right. If Cedric stepped in, the problem might disappear at once. After all, he was her investor, which gave her enough reason to ask for help. But Ariel suddenly insisted she wanted to solve this herself. Like a kid asking for a clue, she begged Cedric to at least point her in the right direction. He asked if she knew Gilbert, the head of a major trading guild. He explained that she handled many kinds of goods, had ties to noble families, played a huge role in the Beller Empire's economy, and was always looking for profit. He'd heard they were now settled near the border of Beller. Cedric advised Ariel to make a deal with her. When they arrived, the place felt less like the capital and more like another country. A blue-haired man greeted the women, held out his hand, and quickly asked what business brought them there. Ariel introduced herself and said she had come to see Madame Jaina, which surprised him, but he still asked them to follow. Ariel quickly saw Cedric had been right. Everything she needed was here, and fresh too. She decided she had to make this deal no matter what. Jaina asked where her guests had come from. Ariel said she was from the Winston family, and Jaina answered right away that she wouldn't waste time talking because she had no interest in making a deal. Ariel apologized and admitted she should have learned the trading guild's etiquette before coming. The blonde woman laughed, surprised that Lady Ariel had actually thought that far. She said she'd teach her the guild's manners since they weren't that complicated. Charlotte explained that what mattered most to the guild was merchandise, and Jaina only spoke with people who brought items she liked. Then she presented a gold vase covered in jewels. Ariel realized Jaina liked expensive things. She thought perfume might work as a gift, but she still didn't know enough about her. So Ariel asked if there was any clue about what kind of present would work better. Charlotte said she'd heard the area had been troubled by cirones lately. Cirones were bad-tempered birds that loved hunting and often caused trouble for travelers in the woods. They also had a sharp sense of smell, so the moment hunters picked up their scent, the birds would flee. Charlotte first offered to go herself and show off her bird hunting skill, but then she changed her mind, saying she lacked time, and suggested a close friend instead. Ariel nearly choked on her tea when she learned that friend was Cedric. Charlotte then casually asked why she looked so shocked. Didn't she like Cedric? It wasn't about liking him or not. In the original story, Cedric had been such a frightening figure that people barely dared say his name. But after meeting him herself, Ariel saw he was nothing like that image. Behind the cold first impression, he was surprisingly gentle and polite. That was why Ariel's feelings for Cedric were starting to show, and that scared her. Ariel quickly explained that Cedric was only her investor, so there was no real personal relationship between them. She felt she'd drifted far from her original plan, especially since she once wanted to cut ties with him for good. Now she kept wondering what she would do once the main heroine appeared. Ariel assumed the Duke was too busy to help her, even if they had grown closer, but she was wrong. Cedric told her helping was part of his duty as her investor, so this came first. Ariel figured he probably wanted a break from work too, which explained why he was so willing to help. He helped her onto the horse, sat her in front of him, and gently held her hands. Cedric kept reminding himself that he and Ariel were only tied by business. Still, he couldn't understand why she drew him in so much, or why he wanted to spend more time with her. He was happy to show her the hunting grounds under the Duchess's control. Then he helped her down so they could check the area where the Skyrens had been showing up. As they moved through the woods, Cedric suddenly told Ariel to stay still. He'd heard something strange. He warned everyone to be careful, since Skyrens love shiny things and one was already watching them. A huge bird suddenly lunged at Cedric with a harsh cry, trying to rob him. He reacted at once, took the hit, and told Ariel to stay behind him. Deciding to capture it, he fired a special weapon and trapped the bird in a net. But the creature began crying pitifully and hiding its face with its wings. It seemed to have a broken leg, and when Ariel stepped closer, Cedric warned her not to fall for its act. He was right. The bird suddenly smirked, broke free, and shot into the air. Then it attacked the servants, yanking out clumps of their hair. Cedric quickly checked if Ariel was hurt, but she was only shocked. The hunters realized the rumors were true. These birds really were nasty. The maids wanted to hide, but that wouldn't help since the birds could track people by scent. The beast's feathers reeked like urine, making everyone recoil. But Ariel liked the smell, because she remembered it was actually musk. If dried well and mixed with alcohol, it could become a great base note that softened the whole perfume. Ariel realized this could become the perfect gift for Jaina. No one understood how those awful feathers could turn into perfume, but trusting Ariel, they gathered them anyway. Even Ariel knew the request sounded strange, but Cedric backed her up and said she must have a reason. Back at her perfumery, Ariel finally finished the new scent. She named it Siren Musk Scent. Proud of the result, Ariel asked Rena to test it. Rena was nervous and grossed out, since the perfume came from feathers that smelled like urine. Still, she trusted Ariel, and when she opened the bottle, a soft, sweet scent greeted her. The fragrance felt warm and comforting, and Rena was so charmed she accidentally hugged the knight, thinking he was her lady. The musk was much stronger than Ariel expected, so she knew she had to lower the amount. Rena was amazed that Ariel could turn such a nasty smell into something beautiful. Ariel said this perfume was special. It would tame the Scarens. Jaina hoped this wasn't a waste of time, and Ariel asked her to trust her. Ariel blended ingredients that matched the smell of the deep forest where the Scarens lived. Then she put the perfume on Jaina's wrist so she could test it. Jaina said it felt like pure nature. The sharp top note faded, leaving a deep, wild scent. Ariel insisted this wild fragrance would help and asked Jaina to see for herself. Though Jaina said Ariel sounded too confident, she agreed they should go. Even Rena noticed something strange in the forest as Scarens peered from the bushes like hunters. The creatures soon surrounded them, and the scared maid asked if this was really supposed to happen. Ariel explained that the scent mimicked the forest's ruler, so the Scarens would see Jaina as a rival. It almost felt like a greeting ritual, and Jaina said she would trust the perfume. Then a much larger bird, clearly the leader, rose into the air. Jaina held out her hand, testing whether it would submit. Instead, the huge creature sniffed around, screamed, and spread its wings like it was ready to fight. Ariel panicked, thinking her brilliant perfume had failed, and Jaina pulled out a small dagger. But the bird suddenly rolled onto its back, asking for belly rubs and feather scratches. Jaina petted it, and it answered with soft, happy sounds. Everyone had doubted Ariel for a moment, but now it was clear her talent was real. Ariel had worried about the strong musk causing side effects, especially since it could stir arousal, but luckily nothing went wrong. The siren quickly accepted Jaina as more than a rival, or even a friend, as its owner. Jaina walked up to Ariel and said she never expected her biggest headache to become this obedient. She loved the scent and said she was excited to work together. To return the favor, Jaina sent Ariel a huge gift of ingredients, including fresh base materials and many rare new items. In one box, Ariel found a magic-enhancing elixir. Her notebook mentioned that this elixir could boost a perfume's effect. Using it, she made several new products at once. But when she tested one on Rena again, Ariel noticed something was wrong, and all the bottles looked the same. She soon realized the disaster. Anyone who smelled that perfume started strongly hitting on each other. Ariel had no idea how to stop the chaos around her. Then Cedric arrived at the mansion and asked what was going on. At that exact moment, as Rena reached for another bottle, they all fell and shattered on Cedric's trousers, covering him in an overly sweet scent. Ariel knew that if Cedric got hit by the side effect, she was done for. She tried to ask if he was okay, but Rena suddenly grabbed Ariel's hands and kissed them, swearing she'd serve only her forever. Then the knight started shouting that Lady Winston could ask anything of him, and he'd do it at once. Cedric noted that Ariel had really surprised him by adding the enhancing elixir. She awkwardly admitted she had wanted to make the perfume a little stronger. To her surprise, the perfume had no effect on him at all. He explained that almost nothing works on him except fragrances from Onyxia. Cedric said he came to hear about the trade guild deal, but instead found a very amusing scene. Then he pointed out that real magical perfumes could be extremely valuable in business. Ariel suggested they continue this talk somewhere else. Soon, people began promoting her perfumes as magical ones that could even heal sickness and wounds. Customers rushed in, asking the price and eager to try the effects for themselves. But Ariel only smiled, apologized, and said the magical perfumes were not for sale. People were upset, saying their ladies would kill them if they came back empty-handed, and Ariel couldn't even explain the refusal properly. Then 3 girls entered the shop and asked if she was Lady Winston. Ariel told them magical perfumes weren't for sale and asked them to leave, but they quickly said they weren't there to buy. They wanted to place an order. They explained that one of them suffered from terrible insomnia, and nothing had helped. When Ariel asked why, the girls said boys from the academy kept harassing Sasha, leaving her too traumatized to sleep. Sasha suddenly fainted from exhaustion, but her friends caught her and promised to help. In tears, the girls begged the great perfumer to save their friend. After a brief pause, Ariel agreed, on one condition. With a sly smile, she said they would need to make a sacrifice for Sasha's sake. The girls insisted no sacrifice would scare them if it meant helping their only friend. In truth, Ariel only meant that they all had to test the new perfume together. This perfume was called Warm Memories. Ariel changed a recipe from her scent diary, using cozy sweet notes like cocoa and tonka. She added yuzu and grapefruit oils for freshness and depth. Warm Memories had exactly the effect Sasha needed. Ariel sprayed it on Sasha's wrist, and it reminded her of the mousse cake they had eaten the day before. Sasha began remembering the time they spent eating desserts together. Ariel explained that the warm, sweet scent gives a sense of comfort and safety. Right after that, the girls started dozing off, feeling warm and calm. The perfume could bring back memories and help people feel at peace. The original version actually put people into endless sleep, but Ariel had adjusted the formula. Still, she suddenly worried the side effect might really be that eternal sleep. When Sasha woke up, she said it was the first peaceful sleep she'd had in a long time. The girl asked the price, saying she wanted some after feeling its effect, but the woman smiled and said she could keep it as a gift. Then Sasha suddenly said she wanted to become Ariel's follower. The other girls quickly said they wanted the same. But Ariel remembered these girls had caused plenty of trouble when they followed the original Ariel. Still, they begged her not to turn them away and promised to do anything she asked. Rena and the knight went out to buy perfume ingredients when the maid spotted a rat. After beating it, she rushed off again. Meanwhile, the hooded man moved toward the pale-faced guy. Mr. Kian was sitting on the porch, drinking tea and reading. The man reported that the rumors were true. Ariel really was making magical perfumes. He added that Winston's influence was growing fast. Then the gentleman said that, like it or not, he would have to take Lady Winston's magical perfumes. He gave the man another job too. Break into the shop and steal the recipe diary. Ariel said Ms. Jaina might help with a deal in the West, though it was still only a plan for now. She also mentioned they were getting ready for an opening party. Cedric was caught off guard, and she invited him to come. Once he heard Ariel would be there, the Duke agreed and said he still hadn't properly congratulated her. Cedric said he'd wait for her message. She thanked Rena for setting the table so nicely. Then a blonde walked up and congratulated Ariel on the opening. Guests kept giving Ariel flowers and celebrating her new perfume shop. Ariel thanked everyone for coming. Even the main investor arrived with pink flowers and praised the shop. After giving them to Ariel, Cedric gently removed a petal from her hair. Ariel even gave a few girls small perfumes, saying they could help them find true love. They said they'd save them for their most important day. A man tried to greet the Duke, saying it was an honor, but Cedric barely reacted. Seeing where Cedric was looking, he quickly asked what his relationship with Ariel was. Cedric quietly answered that he was her investor. Then Raphael introduced himself as the owner of a flower shop. The others sighed and wished him success. Ariel then came over and asked what they were talking about. She said Luna and the kids had prepared a simple game and invited them to join. Cedric then said it was time for him to go. Since he'd already stayed a while, he said he enjoyed himself and left. The blonde said she was surprised His Highness had come despite being so busy. Ariel said he was an investor, so of course he showed up, but the blonde pointed out no investor looks at someone like that. She couldn't believe Ariel hadn't noticed. She said his stare was so intense it could have burned through her dress. One of the kids added that Cedric definitely liked Ariel, and Luna's intuition was never wrong. Ariel tried to explain that Cedric felt nothing for her, and she felt the same. She was sure Cedric already had his real heroine, so he could never love her. From around the corner, a man watched the celebration and muttered that he'd finally found Ariel Winston. Oddly, just hearing Ariel's name lifted Cedric's mood a little. Then his aide warned him that the 5th prince had sent a spy to Lady Winston's shop. Cedric turned at once, but the man tried to stop him, reminding him he hadn't been well lately. He offered to send another knight, but Cedric insisted he alone was enough. The spy figured all he had to do was steal the perfume recipes and make a fortune. He searched the drawers for the diary. Then Cedric suddenly appeared behind him. With a few quick moves, Cedric dropped him to his knees and smashed his head into the floor. After confirming Ariel was safe, he ordered the spy taken away and prepared to leave. Then he was hit by a shock, wondering if the Duke had pushed himself too far. But an ally of the spy appeared in front of him with a sword. Drawing his dagger, the investor charged into the fight. The attacker blocked it and knocked the heavy blade aside. The knight fought back and cut through Cedric's clothes, making Cedric demand to know who sent him. The man only said he'd turn the Duke back into a monster, then threw a bottle that released a strange scent. Cedric covered his nose at once, realizing it was a demonic fragrance. Calling Cedric a monster, the man stepped back. The scent of Onyxia was only a temporary cure that made Cedric human. The stranger said Cedric would learn everything soon enough, then said goodbye. Cedric collapsed unconscious when he realized he couldn't control himself. Ariel woke up in bed the next morning. She touched the rose petals from yesterday and saw they were still fresh. Then she heard strange noise and caught Rena shouting. Rena warned that it was dangerous and Ariel should stay away from the Duke lying there. But Ariel walked up to him and asked if he was okay. She wondered why he was here, and he answered by falling asleep on her shoulder. He murmured that her scent was truly calming. A few hours later, the Duke apologized for the trouble. Ariel then asked who he'd been fighting, since he looked a mess. He avoided the question and said he had to leave. The next customer was a pale-haired girl dressed in pink. She asked if Duke Evans had just left. Then she asked for a perfume that could make someone fall in love with her. Ariel had tried to make one before, but every attempt failed. So Ariel asked why she was so sure such a perfume could be made. She pressed the girl for the reason. The stranger said she'd overheard Lady Luna and Lady Island whispering about it. Ariel quickly said that was just silly talk meant for children. Then the girl claimed Ariel and Cedric had gotten much closer. The blonde handed Ariel a box and told her to look inside. Inside was a rare plant from Mount Daphne. Legend said the goddess Euphenol fell in love with a shepherd at first sight, and after he returned her feelings, they planted this herb and burned it as incense. Ariel didn't know the story, but she did know what the plant could do in perfume. Its scent was so charming that people believed it could captivate anyone. Ariel admitted she'd tried hard to get some before, but failed. So the customer asked who Ariel liked enough to go that far. She said Ariel would be surprised by the person she wanted to win over. That person was Baron's son, Keenan Arzin. Ariel quickly guessed he must be handsome. She told Lady Cleo that she understood. Cleo said they had been friends for 10 years, but now she wanted to confess. Even if the effect lasted only a week, she still wanted his heart. Then she wondered if love gained through magic had any real meaning. Ariel agreed to help her, but she warned that since it was her first time using this plant, failure was very possible. Magnus shouted at her ally because all her plans had failed again. They had even bribed flower shop owners, but Ariel still made a deal with the head of a major trade guild. The man just scoffed and said none of this would have happened if the lady actually knew how to make perfume. But with a smile, the blonde said Fonte had nothing to worry about because he had a great plan. He pointed out that the festival of St. Catherine was coming soon. Keenan confidently declared that he would win Ariel over at the festival. Meanwhile, Ariel started making the love perfume. This time she did well. The scent could stir the heart and awaken feelings. While she tested it, Rena offered her some cake. After setting the perfume down, Rena caught a lovely scent. Ariel asked what she thought, and Rena asked where that fragrance came from. She called it a masterpiece and said Ariel could get rich from it fast. Ariel replied that the ingredients were too rare to buy, so they couldn't make much of it. Then Rena started saying how beautiful Ariel looked today. Soon, the evening ball began. It was held for St. Catherine, the patron saint of lovers. But Ariel quickly felt she shouldn't have come. It got awkward, especially when Charlotte noticed her and waved her over. Ariel thanked her for the invitation, and Charlotte said she was always glad to have her. Charlotte also said Ariel looked especially lovely today. She looked rested and bright, like she'd slept well and was full of energy despite working so much. The blonde asked if Ariel was wearing a new perfume, and Ariel said the scent must have soaked into her skin while she was mixing it. Charlotte said it was a warm and wonderful fragrance. Ariel seemed to charm everyone around her, and people kept complimenting her. One girl even asked if the perfume was for sale, but Ariel said no. Another said the scent was making her heart race. Embarrassed, Ariel decided to leave the ball. She realized people were reacting to her very differently than before. Then that same customer approached her to ask about the perfume she ordered. Ariel pulled a bottle from a box. The love perfume came in a heart-shaped package with a black bow. The lady said it looked adorable. The scent was like fresh flowers and sweet honey. Right away, she could tell the fragrance truly charmed the heart and wrapped it in love. There was one catch. The perfume only worked if the other person had liked someone for a long time. Cleo said that meant she still had a chance. The lady wished her luck and left, and Cleo called out that she'd never forget this. After building up her nerve, Cleo moved in and sprayed the elixir on herself. But before she could act, her partner came up behind her. He said he'd been looking all over for her. Soon, the two were wrapped up in each other on the dance floor. It looked like the plan worked perfectly. Off to the side, Ariel smiled proudly like she'd made it all happen. Even though she was exhausted, she had learned something useful. Then a rough voice cut in. Cedric walked over, saying he'd been searching for her all night. He pointed out that Ariel smelled very different tonight. He said he didn't know this scent, and if Charlotte hadn't told him, he'd have thought Ariel had gone home. Ariel was shocked that he checked for her by scent. In her head, she immediately compared him to a dog. Cedric then asked if her feelings had changed lately. People say changing perfume means something in your life is changing too. Ariel explained she only made a new fragrance for work. Cedric said he was here because Charlotte asked him to come. It was part of a deal. His attendance made the event feel more special. With the Duke there, the ball naturally felt more grand. Cedric held out his hand and asked Ariel to dance. Ariel admitted she'd barely slept, but she brushed it off. What mattered more was whether his condition was getting worse. Recently, he'd been drinking more, and with how strange he seemed, his madness was growing just like in the original story. That made Ariel feel bad for him. Cedric asked why she was looking at him like that. Ariel said she felt she should treat him better. Since Cedric was the main character, she decided to do her best for him. For most people, perfume is taste. But for the Duke, it's something he needs to live. Cedric smiled and said it sounded like Ariel was starting to care about him. He took her hand and asked her to dance again. Ariel agreed to one dance. She noticed he was in a very good mood today. Cedric said today was special to him. When Ariel caught his strange look, he gave a small smile. She wondered if the perfume was affecting him, but she quickly pushed that idea away. Perfume shouldn't be able to affect a man like that. Ariel was awful at dancing and kept stepping on Cedric's feet. He told her not to worry. She only had to focus on him. They kept dancing, trading soft, starry-eyed looks. Then Ariel suddenly pulled away, saying it was too hot. She didn't know why her heart was beating so fast. Cedric's advisor came up and said a baron was waiting for him. Cedric told Ariel he had to leave. The mood was getting too strange, so Ariel left too. She tried to figure out why Cedric had acted like that. Then the prince arrived at the ball, and people immediately started whispering, but his eyes went straight to Ariel. Ariel bowed and said she hadn't expected to see him there. He answered that her talent impressed him. She'd even managed to tie her ex to her business. Ariel laughed and said he made it sound like he was scared of her. She added that copying her perfume wasn't enough. They had even bribed the flower sellers. The hall instantly filled with whispers. The prince demanded proof, saying Ariel was making things up. She shot back that if he wanted to compete, he should do it right. Then Ariel turned away, ready to leave since he had nothing else to say. But then Magnus proposed a fair match between Ariel and the shop's head perfumer. Ariel didn't want to waste energy on them, but they kept pushing. They set the terms. If they lost, they'd close their perfume shop. If they won, Ariel would become his perfumer. Ariel asked what the contest would be, and Fante said the answer was obvious. They'd make perfume. There was one extra rule. Each woman had to create a scent for her investor. Ariel tried to think it through, realizing her investor wasn't there, which made it harder. Then he appeared from the crowd, looking completely sure she would win. People gathered around, though some still had no idea what was going on. Everyone knew Winston's shop was small, but it had a strong name. Both sides got the same amount of ingredients, and the one with more votes would win. Ariel wondered what scent would suit Cedric best. Because of the original story, she had seen him as a scary tyrant, but she truly believed he was a good person. Even so, she still couldn't read him sometimes. One thing was clear. She had to win. A girl worried that Ariel's rivals had come prepared while Ariel was at a disadvantage. But the Duke said he trusted Lady Winston's skill. Then Ariel spotted a label on Fante's perfume and realized they'd prepared it beforehand. She checked her own perfume and wondered if they had tampered with it too. After all their petty tricks, she couldn't let this slide. Ariel decided this was the perfect time to teach them a lesson. She raised her hand to show she was finished. Once she was allowed to present first, she walked to her investor. She gave him the bottle and asked him to spray it. The perfume was called Duke in the Moonlit Night, made with black orchid for a deep, stirring scent. As it settled, it left behind a faint, warm sweetness on the skin. It gave the wearer a different kind of charm. People breathed it in and felt the same thing. Somber yet warm, noble and charming, just like the Duke. Ariel added that anyone could wear this fragrance, no matter their gender. Fanta cut in, saying summer was coming and a scent like that might feel too heavy. She said she had prepared a bright grapefruit perfume for the hot season. It was called Prince of the Imperial Court, mixing lemon freshness with sweet grapefruit. People agreed it smelled fresh, natural, and full of energy. One person said it was perfect for summer because it was citrus-based. Fanta grinned and loudly claimed Ariel had basically called that kind of scent cheap and boring. She even started advertising her shop, saying these perfumes would be sold cheaply. Duke in the Moonlit Night felt richer and more exciting, but the grapefruit one seemed better for daily use. The crowd started comparing both scents to decide which was better, so they suggested splitting into two groups to count the votes. He told everyone to move to either Ariel's side or Fante's, but the blonde man suddenly started sneezing and cut himself off. He admitted he'd forgotten to mention he was allergic to grapefruit. Fante yelled that he'd only just told her, while he realized he was about to throw up. Her investor rushed off to the bathroom, sick from the allergy. The crowd started talking. She didn't even know his allergy. Some changed their view of her perfume, and Fante swore she'd never trust her investor again. She turned to Ariel and shouted that she'd get revenge and prove who the best perfumer really was. Ariel hadn't expected to win in such a ridiculous way, But then possible customers interrupted, asking when the perfume would be sold. Ariel said it would be available as early as next week, and she'd personally give samples to everyone there today. Cedric walked over and thanked her for making a scent just for him. At the same time, he quietly wondered how Lady Winston really saw him. He congratulated her on the win and gave her a gentle smile. A week later, Ariel was still selling, learning, and improving. Rena said that after the ball, they had gotten a lot more male customers. Ariel said they should make more gender-neutral scents from now on, and that bottle design mattered too. They also saw that their rivals really had kept their word and shut down the shop. The maid brought Ariel a newspaper saying that at the St. Catherine Ball, an unexpected perfume contest had taken place, where Ariel made a scent for Duke Cedric, her ex. It also revealed the truth about the fifth prince's grapefruit allergy. Ariel said those two had annoyed her, but somehow she felt sad too, along with relieved. Then the newspaper stirred up the crowd, and people recognized Ariel as the maker of magical perfumes. They shouted that Mrs. Winston had to visit their shop during today's festival. Soon the girls were buried in papers and newspaper invites, and Ariel barely understood what was happening. The streets were packed today for the big event. Rena said it was the early summer festival. Ariel tried to remember how this festival went in the original story. It was a huge street festival celebrating the start of summer. It was also the day the main character first began his tyranny. Still, Ariel calmed herself by remembering that was 3 years away. When Rena asked if Ariel liked this kind of thing, Ariel realized Rena was at the age where festivals felt exciting, so she told the maid to go enjoy it. Ariel said there probably wouldn't be many customers today, so she could handle the shop alone, but the maid kept trying to drag Ariel along, saying they could visit a famous tarot cafe. Rena nearly cried at the thought of leaving her lady behind. The festival was full of families and children enjoying the day. The maid started acting childish too and asked Ariel to buy her a balloon. They went to the cafe with the fortune teller Rena liked so much, but they were bluntly told it was already closed. Ariel tried to say she could pay extra. The fortune teller recognized Lady Winston right away, said she loved the perfume she bought before, and offered them a free reading. Rena went first and asked about her love life, so the fortune teller laid out the cards. She said Rena's love was closer than she thought. The cards showed the lovers and a traveler setting off on a journey. Ariel figured Rena was acting exactly like a girl her age. Then the fortune teller offered to read Ariel's future too. She insisted her readings were very accurate and lined up with what had already happened in Ariel's life. Ariel felt awkward when the fortune teller refused payment, saying she truly wanted to do it. But then Ariel drew the death card, and the fortune teller told her to pick again. All 3 cards pointed to hell and a painful death. Ariel forced a nervous smile when she saw every card meant death. Even before meeting him, death was already tied to her fate. The fortune teller admitted it didn't sound comforting, but said it wasn't certain he was dead yet. Even if her destined love was alive, he was barely hanging on. Ariel then asked about her luck for today. She was told to go where there was more red in the crowd, and there she might meet a noble. That person might even be her destiny. They'd have a strong presence, and the meeting would happen by chance. The fortune teller tried to soften it, saying medicine keeps improving, so that future lover might recover soon. Rena flatly said Lady Winston already had enough trouble and didn't need another complicated person in her life. Back at the festival, they ran into Raphael. He walked over and greeted Ariel. Ariel suddenly noticed he was wearing red in the middle of a crowd. She asked if he was sick. Then she decided he looked far too young and healthy to be the man from the reading. Raphael told her she looked amazing at the last ball and said he loved her perfume. Ariel brushed it off as flattery. He asked if she planned to stay longer and offered to look after her. Ariel said she already had a bodyguard. Raphael said he meant as company, not a guard. He offered to show them around, saying he knew the whole street. They stopped at a dart game where you pop balloons for prizes. Ariel turned out to be very good at it. When Raphael took his turn, Ariel said he wouldn't beat her score. He slipped darts between his fingers and took a fighting stance. Then he popped every balloon and won instantly. He claimed he'd only practiced a lot and never had formal training. Ariel started praising Erna instead, which made Raphael jealous. Trying to win her attention back, he mentioned a stall nearby selling chicken skewers with cheese. Since Erna loved chicken skewers too, Ariel thought it worked out perfectly. Then she realized Erna wasn't with them. At the same time, Erna was in the forest trying to get her ball out of a tree. Someone suddenly handed her a string, startling her. In front of her stood a hooded man with dark red bags under his eyes and an empty stare. The others split up to search, thinking Erna couldn't have gone far. Ariel thanked them and said they should meet back there in an hour. She called out for Erna and searched through the festival. Then she spotted a blonde man eating noodles. She was about to ask why he was dressed so oddly when he covered her mouth. He pulled her into a corner and held her tight. Ariel fought back by biting the prince's hand. He yelped that His Highness was supposed to be at the castle. Then he explained his mother had banned him from leaving the palace because of her, so he had snuck out. He asked her to pretend she never saw him. Ariel said she had no time for this and tried to leave, but he stopped her. She turned and asked what he wanted now. The prince asked if she had come alone. He said he wasn't used to a commoner's village and needed a guide, but Ariel pointed out he had enough money to hire one. He grabbed her hand and said that wasn't the point. He admitted he had no one to enjoy the festival with. Ariel reminded him Fanta had torn up the contract and said she didn't need an investor like him. Now the papers were mocking him, and he was completely alone. Ariel said she was looking for someone, and if he helped, they could spend some time together. After she described Erna, he asked if she meant the servant girl. Showing off his memory, he said he'd seen her heading toward the forest not long ago. In the forest, Ariel found Rena's bracelet on the ground. She feared something bad had happened, but the prince said a magic tower was nearby, so no one would act recklessly. Then Ariel caught a familiar scent. It was Rena's perfume. She ran after it, trying to find her maid, but tripped. The prince caught her by the waist. Ariel looked up at him, embarrassed. Then he dropped her and said she was too heavy. That made Ariel furious. She told him to leave, saying she could keep searching on her own. He still followed, saying he wanted to help. Ariel relied on her nose and followed Rena's scent. Soon she found Rena standing alone in the forest. Rena ran to her with tears in her eyes. Ariel quickly asked if she was hurt. Rena said she was fine because the Duke had saved her. Cedric stepped out and held a hand toward Ariel. He told her the girl was safe and she didn't need to worry. When he noticed blood, he asked if anyone was injured. Ariel thanked him, admitting she'd been terrified something had happened to Rena. Cedric only smiled and said thanks weren't needed. The blonde prince tried to get praise too, but Cedric cut in and asked why he was there. He said Lady Ariel had tearfully begged for help, so he was assisting. He added with a grin that he and Ariel were friends now. Still angry, Cedric said he couldn't ignore the prince's past behavior and rolled up his sleeves. The prince answered that the Duke could come at him if he wanted. Ariel stopped them, saying Rena was frightened and they could fight another time. Cedric apologized and said Erna would escort them home. Ariel told Rena to return to the shop and rest since it was already their day off. Then Cedric asked Ariel to speak with him in private. Over dinner, Ariel asked what serious matter he wanted to discuss. Cedric asked if she ever traveled for work. He said he wanted her to go somewhere with him. To be clearer, he asked her to keep him company. They needed to go to the Divine City on the edge of the Beller Empire. The trip would take half a month of non-stop travel by horse. Ariel apologized and asked why she had to go herself when she could just send plenty of Onyxia spirits for him. Cedric said the scent alone wasn't enough anymore, surprising Ariel, who asked if it had weakened. He explained the effect grew much stronger when she was near him. Ariel said perfume shouldn't work based on someone's presence, but Cedric insisted from experience that the difference was huge. Ariel said she couldn't accept because she couldn't leave the shop that long. She also said he was wrongly linking her to the cure just because she made the scent, so Cedric told her to forget that request and asked something else. He wanted her to attend next month's ball as his date. Ariel wondered why he would ask that. Cedric said his small social circle made it hard to find a partner. Ariel thought that was ridiculous. Someone like Cedric could get a crowd just by asking in public. She knew going as his date would spark rumors, but it could also help her perfume business, especially after her latest hit. After thinking it over, Ariel accepted. When she got back to the shop, Rena and Erna said they'd been waiting for her. She asked if anything serious had happened. Ariel told them to watch each other more carefully next time, and Rena apologized. Rena remembered the horrifying scene, blood everywhere, and Cedric killing several knights in front of her. Cedric realized even Rena didn't carry the Onyxia scent that could calm his bloodlust. He was injured, but he warned her not to come near because he was dangerous then. Cedric asked Rena to keep it from Lady Winston. Otherwise, Ariel might end up in danger. Rena said she was fine and apologized for causing trouble. Ariel told her to take a few days off and rest. Later, Cedric was told that the Information Guild from 16 years ago had resurfaced. It seemed tied to the Duke's madness. He was ordered to keep investigating. Guy said he was the best informant around, so Cedric could trust him fully. Cedric knew that if luck was on his side, he might finally end this madness. Ariel decided summer was the right time to create a new seasonal product. It had to truly feel like summer. Rena quickly suggested the sea. Thinking back, Ariel realized she'd never seen a sea scent in the original diary, and it seemed hard to make in this world. A messenger arrived, saying Countess Gilbert had sent him. He gave Ariel a gift box with a rare herb. Jaina had sent it from the guild leader they worked with and asked her to use it well. No one there had ever smelled it before. It was fresh and lively, like a cool morning breeze with a hint of sea salt. The scent felt like young romance. Then His Highness showed up, saying she promised to spend time with him. He had even planned a whole date course to pressure her a little. Ariel tried to refuse because she was buried in work, and he pouted, calling her a liar. So she offered a compromise. They could have fun making perfume instead. He complained that didn't sound fun at all. Ern immediately handed him the herb and said it needed to be ground right away. Very little was known about Trey herb. It had never been used in perfume, so Ariel wanted to test different ways to extract it. Records said the Western royal family once used this herb to save Znoi, but its clean, ocean-like smell and strange blue color hinted it might do more. Ariel chose to make the herb the main note. When they sprayed it, a bright, refreshing, fruity scent burst out. It carried the smell of sea breeze and fresh grass, with a faint, clean note that lingered softly. Ariel realized Trey Herb's secret was its power to refresh and energize. This perfume would sell great in summer, and only Ariel could make something like this. Now she just had to choose a bottle and a name. Elsewhere, Fanta was boiling with anger. She swore she'd leave that place and become more famous and successful than everyone else. Then blue-violet smoke suddenly wrapped around her. Fanta collapsed and lost consciousness. A girl stepped into the room with a sly smile. Later, Ariel served the girls some sweets. She told them she had made a new perfume and asked them to test it. Then a blonde woman walked in, saying she'd overheard them and wanted to know when it would go on sale. She wanted to buy it first. Ariel said she didn't know the release date yet, but she'd let her try it next time. The blonde said she always loved Ariel's perfumes, and everyone at the salon used them too. The kids noticed Mrs. Ariel was getting more popular. People were talking about her more, and more customers like that lady kept coming in. The shop was slowly getting busier. At this rate, they'd need a bigger place. Ariel noted that the shop next door was empty and under renovation. Then a man came over and handed her an envelope saying Evans sent this decree. Inside was an invitation to the Imperial Ball. Ariel at once remembered Cedric asking her to attend next month's ball as his date. The kids were amazed. It was the biggest event of the year, and only invited nobles could go. Even the original story barely mentioned it, so Ariel hadn't realized how important it was. The girls begged her to go and tell them everything later. Then several men suddenly showed up, saying they'd be honored to escort Ariel to the ball. The girls sighed and apologized, saying she already had a partner. Ariel proudly revealed it was Duke Evans. Even so, they said if Cedric backed out, she should call them. Ariel could tell business was booming, but she wanted to aim even higher. At last, the day of the Imperial Ball came, and 6 maids got Ariel ready. They kept praising her, saying she grew more beautiful every day, though Ariel figured Count Winston had told them to treat her well. Her father was shocked and angry that she'd been invited to the Imperial Ball. He insisted she had to look perfect before the Imperial family. The maids brought dress options, but most looked outdated. Ariel picked jewelry herself and chose a necklace with a gem like Cedric's eyes. Then someone knocked to say Duke Evans had arrived. Cedric invited her into his carriage. Ariel suddenly thought she could really fall for this investor, especially what looks like a storybook lead. She asked how he'd been feeling, since she was basically acting as his doctor. After all, her perfume calmed his madness better than any doctor or priest in the Empire. When he asked what that made her, Ariel answered simply, a perfumer. Cedric took her arm and led her inside. People immediately whispered that their relationship looked like more than business. Then Cedric asked if she had changed her perfume. The scent was deeply captivating. It felt like shining waves in the calm of the sea. Cedric was amazed Ariel could put feelings like that into a fragrance. He started telling her about a magical island with pink sand. Thinking she'd like it, he suggested they visit in summer. Soon, an older woman with a fan arrived at the ball. It was the Empress. Ariel instantly realized this was the perfect chance to promote her perfume. The Empress thanked Evans for coming and said she was glad to see him again. Then she looked at Ariel and asked if she was his companion. Cedric introduced her, and the Empress noted this was his first time bringing a partner, especially since guests weren't allowed in alone. She soon noticed the lovely scent coming from Lady Winston. The Empress guessed it came from the herb gifted by the neighboring kingdom. Ariel confirmed it. The new perfume was made with Trey herb. It wasn't on sale yet, but she had a bottle with her. The Empress tried it and was impressed. The scent was rich, yet it made the air feel fresh and alive. Compared to plain Trey herb, this version was deeper and more refined. With the Empress praising it herself, the perfume was sure to become a hit. But then she was interrupted by news that Minister Rowell urgently needed to see her. She asked Evans to come with her for a moment. The nobles instantly crowded around Ariel, asking to try the perfume too. Ariel knew her business had just taken a huge leap tonight. Later, just as she wanted to lie down and rest, the 5th prince appeared. Cian told her his mother really liked that fragrance. Ariel smiled and said he had helped a little, and he answered that even her smile was beautiful. Right then, Cedric stepped in. He coldly warned that if the prince couldn't find his own partner, he shouldn't chase after his. The blonde prince brushed it off, saying they were only talking. He quickly reminded Cedric that he and Lady Winston were only business partners. Clearly upset, Cedric grabbed Ariel's hand and pulled her away. She told him to let go because he was holding too tightly. Cedric demanded to know why she kept talking to that scoundrel. Ariel explained that getting close to him could help the business, especially since he was royalty. Cedric then pressed her. Was it only for business, or did she actually like him? Frowning, he insisted his bloodline outranked the prince's. Ariel knew they were on bad terms, but not this bad. Cedric said when things got messy. It was best to get some air. He took her to the Imperial Palace greenhouse. There, Ariel suddenly realized Cedric was that blonde prince's uncle. Then she noticed a rare herb with a scent like mint mixed with mustard. She regretted not bringing her diary. Cedric could tell Ariel really liked this place. He asked her to stay a little longer because he wanted more time with her. She agreed, saying she loved it there. When Ariel said she wanted to come again, Cedric told her she could come anytime, but urgent business called him away, so he had to leave her there. Elsewhere, the prince decided Ariel must be Cedric's weak spot after how rattled he got at the ball. Then he wondered why his own mood had turned so sour. Back at the ball, the first and third princes were introduced. The first prince was Louis, a handsome blonde. The second, Pierre, looked much the same. Both seemed even more striking than before. The brothers immediately started pestering the blonde prince, saying he should come greet them. He didn't get why they were there when they were supposed to be studying abroad. One brother added that the youngest among them was especially sensitive. Then they shoved bad news at him, a newspaper exposing the prince's disgrace. Annoyed, he told his brothers to get lost. Then their mother appeared, and everyone quickly greeted her. The empress asked how their trip had gone. One prince boasted that he had crossed the eastern continent and learned many martial arts, but their mother said it was good Kian hadn't caused too much trouble. The youngest was told he could skip family dinner if he didn't want to embarrass himself again. Ariel later approached His Highness and asked why he was alone. Then she noticed he was crying. Ariel said that was just cruel. She was sure there were plenty more cakes anyway. Kian admitted he didn't understand why people looked down on him when he was trying so hard, yet everything still went wrong. Ariel told him he had already answered his own question. The problem, she said, was that he did everything just to look good to others. If he wanted things to change, he needed to act for himself and do what he actually liked. Kian then realized that even after all he'd done, Ariel still didn't hate him. Then he openly confessed that he liked Lady Winston, not knowing someone was taking photos of them from around the corner. Before long, the photos hit the newspapers, and Cedric saw them. The next morning, Rena brought that paper straight to Ariel. A month later, a new shop opened right beside Ariel's, with a huge sign for Magnus. The owner shouted that, for opening day, everything was selling at 1/4 the usual price. People quickly saw it was far cheaper than Ariel's perfume, and Magnus clearly meant business. Winston still had no customers, so Ariel told Rena to take a rest. Rena brushed it off, saying it was only temporary and customers would come any minute. But anyone who stopped by heard about the quarter-price sale and went right to the other salon. It was strange. Kian had stopped funding them, and Fante should have been out of business by now. So Ariel guessed Fante had found a new backer. Ariel asked Erna for a favor. After comparing the scents again, she confirmed Fante's perfumes were blatant copies of hers. If those knockoffs kept selling that cheap, Ariel's shop could go under. Then Magnus herself came in and mocked how tiny their store was. Ariel fired back that Fante couldn't live off stolen work forever. She added that whoever was backing her now would end up embarrassed too. Magnus coldly promised that this time she'd wipe Ariel out for good. Looking over the papers, Rod said money management was no longer a problem. Then he asked what to do about Cedric Evans, since he'd already started investigating. The boss said not to move too fast. They should hit his weak spot instead. The woman agreed and said she was waiting for the order. Ariel went to the trade guild. She hoped Mrs. Jaina might help. Jaina welcomed her with a smile and asked what brought Lady Winston there. Ariel said she'd found a great use for Trey's herb and brought perfume as a gift. Jaina had heard plenty about Ariel's perfumes, but never tried one herself. After seeing its effect, she said Ariel only had to ask if she ever needed Trey's herbs again. Jaina guessed Ariel must have urgent business if she came before lunch. Ariel got right to it. She'd heard the guild was going to the Monarch Kingdom and needed a special item from Scylla. What she needed was iris dye. It made a beautiful color, but in the Empire it was insanely costly because supply was so low. Ariel named the exact amount she wanted. Jaina was stunned. Ariel wanted 50 million pieces worth, and she even asked if Ariel expected her to invest too. Ariel said she would make sure every bit of it sold out. Jaina said the request came out of nowhere. Ariel explained that she planned to win the Spring Festival and set this year's color trend. If she became May Queen, demand for iris dye would explode. She promised to take full responsibility. Jaina said Ariel thought far beyond her years. Even the butler agreed the risk was manageable. If the plan failed, they could still sell the extras across the continent. But there was one issue. To get the iris, they'd need to cross a bridge, or else take a long route around the Monarch Kingdom. That bridge was tightly controlled, so passes had to be requested ahead of time. The butler said that in the past, extra money could still get you approval after the deadline. But things had become much stricter under the new ruler. That new ruler was Cedric Evans. It wasn't that he refused bribes. He was just almost impossible to reach. Ariel said she'd deal with Cedric herself. Thinking back, she realized she hadn't truly met him in person for a while. She'd only been sending Onyxia spirits. She quickly figured it was because of the scandalous article linking her to the fifth prince. So Ariel decided to talk to Cedric and clear it up, and asked Erna to at least help buy a gift. When Lady Winston arrived at the shop, the staff bowed and greeted her at once. Promised the best service, she started picking out a fine red outfit. The clerk praised every outfit on her and said Duke Evans would surely love them too. Ariel then reminded him she was actually there to buy a gift for Sir Evans. Without even asking who it was for, he rushed to help, and Ariel noted how well they treated customers. He showed her several pieces, but Ariel felt jewelry wasn't meaningful enough. They were just trying to drain her wallet, so she politely said it wasn't what she wanted. The owner apologized and asked what kind of gift she had in mind, promising to do better. He was stunned when Ariel asked for something as simple as a fruit basket. Then she changed her mind and asked for a bottle of wine instead. They brought out a wine list and she picked the cheapest one. Then Ariel spotted one item displayed apart from the rest, a necklace so costly it had its own case. She instantly knew it would match perfectly with her look for the spring festival, but the staff quickly crushed that hope, saying it wasn't for sale and was display only. When she asked when the display would end, they said there was no set date, though they could add her to a pre-order list. Ariel wondered if it would become available before the spring festival, because she really wanted it. On her way out, she noticed the owner's name on a sign, and it sounded familiar. Erna explained it was one of the owner's middle names. The full name was Cedric Rayner Rehit Evans. If Ariel had known that sooner, she never would have bought Cedric's gift there. Now she finally understood why Cedric's name kept showing up. When Ariel arrived at Cedric's estate, his advisor awkwardly asked her to wait a little longer. She started thinking he was too busy for her. Then Cedric came out himself. Ariel tried to apologize for coming without warning, but noticed he kept leaning in close. Then she saw the pillow mark on his cheek and realized she'd interrupted his nap. Cedric asked why she'd come, saying she never asked to see him first. Ariel answered that she needed his help. She brought up the fortress city he controlled. To strengthen her request, she even used Cedric's full name and asked him to let the trade guild cross the bridge. Cedric first thought she wanted to export perfume to Selu, but Ariel explained she urgently needed to bring something in this month, and without a bridge pass, the traders would return empty-handed. If he approved it, he'd help her plan, and even ease the current slump in trade. Ariel was determined to solve the losses herself. Cedric said he believed in her plan and would add the guild to this month's approved merchants. Ariel thanked him and promised to send a full report on how it turned out. Then Cedric suddenly asked if she'd ever thought about marriage, leaving Ariel stunned. She asked where that came from, and he said the newspaper claimed she was getting close to Beller to marry him. Ariel said it was nonsense. The prince had confessed on his own. Cedric instantly got furious and cursed the prince as a stupid kid. Still, he admitted he was relieved it was only a rumor. Cedric said he'd had a headache and fever before she came, but now the pain was gone. Ariel said he was exaggerating. She stood up, leaned in, and checked his temperature with her hand. Then she looked away and quietly said he still had a fever. Cedric caught her hand and pulled her closer. Ariel met his eyes and was about to speak, but the advisor's laugh broke the moment. Flustered, she pushed Cedric away and handed him the gift. Then she hurried out, embarrassed and confused. Meanwhile, Kian kept sketching Ariel over and over, whispering that he missed her. The drawings were beautiful, with clean, careful lines. Then Kian burst into tears, regretting that he had confessed to Ariel. His older sister saw him and swore she wouldn't forgive Ariel for making him look even worse. A new fragrance filled Ariel's room, and Rena finally recognized the scent of iris. She'd never smelled anything so elegant before. Proudly, Rena declared they were sure to win the spring festival. Then she handed Ariel a small case, saying it had been delivered for her, even though Ariel hadn't ordered anything. When she opened it, she was shocked to see that same necklace. The note inside was in Cedric's handwriting. The girls talked about how a new face would appear this time instead of Charlotte. Then Ariel Winston arrived at the festival, the girl everyone called hot-tempered. But seeing how elegant she looked, the other ladies warmly welcomed her. A strange, lovely floral scent surrounded her. Smiling, Ariel offered the noble ladies a try of her new perfume. Made from iris, it had a refined scent that gently brought out a noble woman's charm. Everyone loved it, and questions poured in about where they could buy it. Then Princess Lena arrived. The girls whispered that only a newcomer could be this bold. She was being far too forward. Lena immediately said Ariel could never become May Queen because her dress color was too expensive to ever become a trend. Ariel bowed, thanked the blonde princess for the lesson, and said she'd heard Lena was very generous. Then Ariel said she'd heard something interesting, that this time the trade guild had visited the port of Sela, known for its rare goods. She said the guild would soon announce a bulk purchase of iris dye. Since few merchants bring iris from far away, that purple-blue shade costs a fortune. Ariel explained the price wasn't due to rarity, but supply problems. The lady was stunned by the sudden huge shipment. Ariel said they brought plenty of dye, so she went all in on purple from head to toe. The nobles quickly figured that if Countess Gilbert said it herself, the supply had to be real. The princess shot back that the countess had made a foolish choice because purple-blue stands for death. Ariel blinked and replied that in flower language, iris means good luck. The lady laughed, saying it was funny how one flower could mean both luck and death. But Lena didn't back down and brought up the rumors linking Ariel to her older brother. Ariel sighed, telling herself that a few rumors might even help her publicity. She said she'd met His Highness a few times, but their relationship wasn't what the papers claimed. Lena warned her to be careful. The imperial family was far too dangerous a game for her. Once the princess left, the others praised Ariel's dress color and asked for more perfume. Then another young woman walked in and asked to try the scent too. Ariel instantly recognized her as the true heroine of the original story, Lena. She was shocked. Lena was appearing way too early, and she wasn't even supposed to be at the spring festival. Lena smiled and called Ariel a genius. As Lena mingled with the crowd, Ariel couldn't understand why she'd shown up so soon. Ariel excused herself, wished everyone a good evening, and left the hall. She needed a moment alone because, in the original plot, Lena was tied to Cedric. Ariel knew she and the Duke were close through business, but someday they were meant to drift apart. She couldn't understand why that thought suddenly hurt so much. Her thoughts were cut off when Lena asked why she was out here alone. Ariel said she just needed a short break. Lena told her the voting had started and suggested they go together. Ariel pushed her worries aside and decided to focus on winning. The voting began, and Ariel Winston was named first. The second nominee was Lady Winbull. The announcer said Lady Ariel had turned the iris theme into a bold, beautiful outfit. The crowd said that Lady Winston had a charm unlike anyone from past years. As for Lady Winbell, she drew attention with a pure beauty the Empire had rarely seen. Lena said it was an honor to compete beside Ariel. One noblewoman teased that Ariel must be upset no men were allowed, so she couldn't bring the Duke. Ariel forced a smile and joked that if Cedric were here, he'd rig the vote for her. Laughing, she added that it was a shame he was born a man. A rival stepped in and told Ariel not to mind them. They were just nervous. Inside, Ariel was desperate to win the May Queen title so she could crush Magnus. The first two votes went to Elena. The girls tried to comfort Ariel when she seemed to have none, but then her votes showed up in a huge pile at the bottom. With a clear lead, Lady Ariel Winston won. She received a bouquet, and a crown was set on her head. Erna met her and knew right away she'd done it. Ariel realized it was time to move on to the contract. After that day, everyone started wearing that unusual color because it became the new trend. People kept asking why the perfume had never been sold before, and Ariel said the flower was rare. She'd just been lucky enough to buy a huge batch. News of her becoming May Queen spread across the Empire, and every paper talked about it. That sent iris dye demand soaring, bringing in a huge profit. It was obvious Ariel had completely outplayed Magnus. To congratulate her, Cedric brought a cake and praised her. Ariel also noted that his necklace matched her look perfectly. He smiled and quickly asked her to dinner, saying it had been a while, but Ariel turned him down, saying she was too busy today. Then the fifth prince showed up and asked her to eat with him too. He said he'd known Ariel was destined to become May Queen. He added that they hadn't spent time together lately and wanted to be alone with her. But Cedric grabbed Ariel's hand and said the prince was talking nonsense. Kian then said he hadn't come just to chat. He had serious business. He wanted Ariel to become his personal perfumer. He admitted that last time he was foolish and failed to notice the treasure right in front of him. Cedric cut in at once, saying Ariel was already his perfumer and he wouldn't let anyone take her. Meanwhile, Rena noticed that Fanta had copied their perfume again. Even customers were saying that cheap stuff couldn't compare to Lady Ariel's shop. Hearing that, Magnus was hit with shock, rage, and despair. The girl mocked her, pointing out that she didn't have a single customer. She wondered if she should step in and help again. Then she handed Magnus an intoxicating scent that could restore her popularity. Soon crowds swarmed the entrance to Fanta's shop like zombies. They fought to get in, nearly shattering the windows and doors. Ariel had stocked up and was waiting for customers. She thought business had grown even more since becoming May Queen, and they might need a bigger shop. She even considered opening a second store and exporting overseas. When Ariel, Rena, and Erna stepped outside, they saw people moving strangely toward Magnus's shop. They held back to see what was happening. Rena said it looked like the people were under a spell. Ariel told Rena to watch the store while she went inside to check. Inside, people were clutching bottles, laughing wildly, and acting insane. Ariel was horrified. It wasn't just odd. It was terrifying. Worse, it wasn't only the customers. Magnus was affected too. Ariel realized Magnus couldn't have done this alone. Someone had to be behind her. Then Prince Kian entered the shop. He said they had received a report about a banned herb being used in the Empire. He ordered a magic barrier set up and brought in a priest to help heal the victims. Using light power, he snapped one lady out of it, and Ariel asked what was happening. Kian revealed that the imperial family carries divine power, and he did too. He quickly saw that his power alone wasn't enough. The scent was too strong. It was made from a poisonous herb with narcotic effects. Kian noted that the herb was banned in the Empire. Ariel said Magnus couldn't be the mastermind, since she was drugged too. She added that, if needed, she could help. At Kian's request, Ariel mixed an elixir for addiction and intoxication. She asked if he suspected who was behind it. Kian said he had a guess because something like this had happened 16 years ago. Elsewhere, money laundering and smuggling were carried out successfully. The girl said Magnus had served her purpose, and she and Beller would handle the rest. The man told her to approach Lady Winston carefully. He made it clear that only Ariel could help revive this place. Back in the strange Fanta shop, Ariel began spraying the elixir. It worked. People started coming back to their senses, though totally confused. She then sprayed Magnus as well and brought her around. Ariel asked if she remembered anything. Fanta said that before Beller left, she had stopped by the shop one last time. Then strange smoke filled the place, and she collapsed. Ariel told her to rest and said it was good they had brought her back to normal. Kian said that, as an old friend, he would speak to the imperial family for Fanta since she could be blamed for everything. She thanked them and sincerely apologized for all she'd done. She promised to help however she could from now on. Ariel said a simple pass once or twice wasn't enough. The investigation showed Magnus' beauty salon had been used to launder money. Ariel asked if the Khan Guild had been wiped out, but few knew its leader had survived and escaped. It had been 16 years since their exile, and all that time they had been rebuilding their strength. They had even set up a new base, and the imperial family was searching for it. This was the only group that felt like a true villain gang in the original story. Khan was the final boss. Cruel, ruthless, and tied to the kidnapping of Cedric Evans as a child 16 years ago. Cedric had been treated like a disposable test subject in an experiment to mix a monster with a demonic being. As a result, Cedric went insane. In the original story, Khan wasn't supposed to appear until 2 years later, but with everything that had changed, the plot had gone off course. Ariel realized Cedric was in danger because Khan had appeared far too early. Ariel got up and said she had to go. She said she needed to stop somewhere right away, and Kian grabbed her hand, warning it was dangerous and saying he'd come too. Winston told him she wasn't someone who needed guarding, and she could go by herself. The prince guessed she was going to see the Duke, and Ariel asked why that mattered to him. He said that proved Mr. Evans was exactly her type. Ariel quickly denied it. Kian just smiled and called her out, pointing to her red ears. Ariel brushed his hand away and repeated that she had to leave. She went to see the Duke and asked Rick if Cedric was inside. He asked what brought Lady Winston there so late, but Ariel was busy checking how Cedric looked. She glanced at Rick and asked to speak with Cedric alone. Ariel said it was late, but this was important. She asked if he had heard that the Khan Information Guild was back. Cedric's face hardened, and he asked where she heard that. Ariel instantly realized Kian would be in trouble if she told the truth, so she only said the group had a terrible reputation. She knew that out of everything Cedric had suffered, the Khan Guild had hurt him the most. They left him with madness, pain, and deep fear from his childhood kidnapping. In the original story, their return drove Cedric mad with rage. Cedric asked what had her so lost in thought. She said it was nothing, just that even if he seemed fine now, his madness could get worse later. Ariel knew he needed the one person who could heal that madness, and that person who was meant to be by his side was Lena. She realized the main heroine was important for Cedric himself. Cedric asked if she wanted to tell him something. Ariel put on her doctor voice and said he had to report even tiny health changes to his family doctor, Ariel Winston. Then she asked if his pulse had been faster lately. Cedric smirked at how seriously she was acting like his doctor. He said he felt the same as always, but still pointed out that she cared about him. Ariel couldn't stop thinking that one day he would naturally meet the main heroine. What tormented her was whether she could stay by his side until then. Cedric offered to walk her to the shop entrance, but Ariel refused, saying it was just around the corner. Later, Cedric thought about the Khan hiding in the underground sewers, and how building a base there meant they were starting up again in the capital. He asked if they had found anything tied to the case from 16 years ago. He said the Khan were living up to their name by causing trouble again. Just the thought of human experiments. That was what caused the madness. During the attempt to fuse him with a demonic being, the blessing from baptism stopped working. That was why even divine power couldn't heal Cedric. An employee said it was still only a guess, but there was more. Ariel Winston appeared to be a successful prototype. If she had also been a test subject, that explained a lot. Then her strange abilities may have come from that experiment, and there had to be a reason they chose her. Suddenly, Cedric had an attack and struggled to breathe. He collapsed and slowly started losing consciousness. As he faded, memories came back of being locked in a cage with Ariel. But the moment he thought of her, the pain eased. Most likely, she had become like the scent of Onyxia to him. Then construction suddenly began at Winston's perfume shop. Customers were shocked to hear it would close for 3 months. Ariel explained she was expanding and asked everyone to wait for her return. It had already been a year since the shop first opened. With the shop under construction, Ariel came to stay at the palace for a while. The maids chatted about how she had recently become the May Queen and how popular her perfume had gotten. Then her father burst in to greet her, saying it had been too long. He asked how the imperial ball went. Ariel said the empress loved her perfume. Unlike some people, she added that she also won the spring festival, and now customers were pouring in, especially since Duke Evans had invested even more in her salon. Her father said he was tired of hearing about her May Queen victory because his daughter was amazing, and he couldn't be prouder. Later, Ariel sat in her room thinking of ways to deal with the con. They might try the same thing again, so she had to be ready. For now, she decided her biggest job was protecting Cedric. The problem was, she still didn't know when he would meet the main heroine. So Ariel started making antidotes based on what she knew about the con from the original story. But her work brought failure after failure, plus explosions and accidents at her desk. When another batch blew up, she admitted it was a complete disaster. She had thought chemistry alone would be enough, even without divine power. So Ariel lured Kian in with desserts because that was the easiest way to get him to help. Then she suddenly asked about his divine power. He explained his older brothers were busy, so he had to handle things himself. Ariel thanked him for helping before, since things wouldn't have been solved without him. Kian also hurried to apologize for suddenly confessing to her and for acting badly out of jealousy. But Ariel had a big favor to ask about that intoxicating scent. She knew the Con Guild was behind it and wanted to be ready for anything. For that, she needed his divine power. Kian said the Imperial Palace feared the same thing, and he'd help however he could. Ariel smiled and said she'd contact him soon then. But Kian stopped her again and said he'd help if she made him a perfume. Her father was stunned to see His Highness visit his palace. Kian explained he came because Lady Winston had agreed to make him a perfume as an old favor. Her father eagerly reached for a handshake and bragged that his daughter was the finest perfumer around. Then Ariel and Kian headed to the lab while her father happily celebrated her growing ties to the imperial family. Ariel said they first needed to decide what kind of scent Kian wanted. Meanwhile, the fifth prince was busy thinking that being in her lab meant she trusted him enough to let him into the place she cared about most. Ariel asked if he had any favorite scents, but in his head he was already saying his favorite was Lady Ariel's own scent. In reality, Ariel just had him try several options and pick what he liked. As expected, the blonde prince had clear tastes. Then she asked what image he wanted the perfume to give him. He didn't think long. He wanted to seem worthy of the imperial family. A major ball for the Empire's founding day was coming soon, with all the most important people there. Kian said he wanted everyone to see how much he had changed, and Ariel told him to leave it to her. She promised to make the best perfume for him. Elsewhere, Cedric guessed Van would make his move on the Empire's founding day. He said Erna might handle it alone, but there were no guarantees. His advisor was surprised when Cedric asked for extra security around Lady Winston. Cedric said he would go to her himself, as a knight or bodyguard. But Rick reminded him that every hour of that day was already packed. He couldn't understand how Cedric planned to abandon everything just to follow Lady Winston. Cedric answered that every matter has its priorities. For 3 days and nights, the Imperial Palace opened its doors, and the whole city joined the celebration. It was the biggest event of the year. Ariel had no intention of missing it, and she showed up looking stunning. At the festival, Lady Charlotte greeted the perfumer. She congratulated Ariel on becoming May Queen, saying it was probably thanks to that perfume from the Spring Festival. Charlotte added that no perfume in the Empire could compare to Ariel's iris scent. Then 2 handsome young men walked over. They introduced themselves as Cian and Zeph. Ariel hadn't planned on getting close to noble sons, especially since her perfume usually drew more women than men. Charlotte happily greeted them and teased that they should make a lovely pair someday. Cian smiled and offered to stay with Ariel during the celebration. She politely turned him down, saying she wanted to spend time with Charlotte. Then the kids jumped in, saying the boys were bothering her. They bluntly told them Mrs. Ariel didn't want their company, so they should leave. A sweet lady then came up and asked the name of Ariel's perfume for the day. She was amazed Ariel had made it herself. She said she had been waiting for Ariel's store to reopen. Ariel told her the construction was almost finished, so she could visit again soon. Then Ariel's father suddenly appeared at the party. With all the nobles gathered there, running into him was unavoidable. He immediately scolded her for caring too much about business. Ariel asked him to continue this somewhere private. Once alone, he said her long teenage phase was over and it was time to act like the Winston heiress. Ariel apologized, but said she had no intention of marrying. Her father guessed she was still stuck on Duke Evans, and that was why she kept refusing marriage. He told her that if she kept waiting, the Duke might never even notice her. Her father said the Duke only kept her nearby to block unwanted marriage offers. Then Duke Evans, standing right behind them, heard it all. Ariel knew that if she was seen with the Duke again at the ball, people would start talking. She told her father not to worry. She would handle her own marriage and still inherit the countess title. He might still see her as a foolish young girl, but she was the only heir to the Winston estate. Ariel returned to Evans and asked what he wanted. Cedric first asked if he could have this dance with her. The room quickly filled with gossip over whether Winston and Evans were together again. Cedric never used to show Ariel much interest, but feelings can change fast. Lately, the two were always together when they got the chance, and they looked good side by side. Cedric told her to call him anytime she needed a dance partner. Ariel thanked him, but said he couldn't come to every ball just to dance with her. He brushed it off as simple, gentlemanly manners. When the imperial family arrived, even the Empress noticed Ariel had come in with Cedric again, but Ariel calmly said they had only just run into each other. The Empress admitted she actually wanted Ariel's advice. With the season changing, she needed new flowers for the imperial courtyard garden. For Ariel, being asked by the Empress herself was a huge honor. She explained that irises are fairly easy to grow, and their color matches Beller well. The Empress said she hadn't cared for irises before, but the princess had grown fond of them lately. She often complained she couldn't believe she had lost to a foreign flower. The Empress thanked Ariel and told her to wait for another invitation. Ariel took the chance to focus on business and promote her perfume. A man carrying expensive wine bumped into a blue-haired girl and spilled it. She quickly apologized, saying she still wasn't used to crowded events like this. He asked if she was hurt and offered to fetch more drinks. Liana bowed and introduced herself to the Duke, saying she had arrived in the Beller Empire only a few months ago. She added that she might soon appear officially at the palace. Cedric was confused. He hadn't heard about any foreign guest. Then he caught a warm scent from her that felt strangely familiar. Ariel thought business was hard, but it was worth it. Now even foreign nobles were giving her their cards. These days, everyone in the empire was talking about Ariel. One man came up and asked if she was the maker of those amazing perfumes. Ariel was glad she came to the Founding Day ball. This might even help her business reach other countries. Then a red-haired man approached, drawn by the iris scent, and Ariel started advertising her perfume again as its fame kept growing. But he surprised her by correctly saying she had mixed iris with geranium. Ariel was stunned when he explained that geranium's strong scent cancels out lancewood. He called it a smart choice. Since lancewood is a very unusual herb, even a tiny amount can erase the smell of many other herbs. He added that he liked that herb scent too. Just touching it, he said, can wipe out every other smell around it. Then he explained its special trait. It works especially well in making intoxicants. At that moment, Ariel realized this man was tied to her past. She couldn't understand why he was bringing up intoxicants. Ariel knew that topic meant danger, so she chose not to react. Seeing her uneasy face, the man laughed it off and said he was only joking to get closer to her. He said he preferred the scent of beautiful flowers over dangerous ones. Then he asked if she had ever visited the port city of Scylla, where the last spring flowers were in full bloom. The red-haired man offered to take her there to see it herself. With him standing too close, Ariel felt she had to refuse. Still, he insisted it would be lovely to talk about scents in a place like that. The fifth prince stepped in and ordered him to release her hand. He sharply demanded to know what the man thought he was doing in the imperial palace. From his red hair alone, the prince guessed the stranger was foreign. The man said he was from Sendora, and the prince replied that everyone he'd met from there had a clear accent. The stranger answered that there are always exceptions. Then he knelt, kissed Ariel's hand, and said he'd be waiting for their next meeting. Kian asked if this kind of thing happened to her often, and Ariel said it did sometimes. She smiled, realizing the prince had come out just to help her. Ariel teased him with a smile, saying she was surprised he could be this cool and helpful. He proudly said his makeover had worked and that he'd been wearing her perfume every day. The way people looked at him had changed a lot. Now people smiled at him, praised him, and seemed to like him. Even his mother had praised how he handled Magnus's case. Kihan happily said that thanks to Ariel Winston, he had finally become useful. Then he gently held out his hand and asked her to dance. She agreed out of courtesy, and the two began to dance. As they waltzed, the prince noticed their scents had mixed together. He said he was curious about this new fragrance they had made. After leaning in, he murmured that Ariel smelled wonderful. Then he asked what she thought of him now. He wanted to know if she felt he had changed. The scent around him was deeply charming. Lost in thought, Ariel failed to notice the girl behind her and bumped into her. She fell and covered her face, starting to cry softly. Then Ariel realized she had fallen right onto the fifth prince. He asked if she was hurt while everyone around them stared. Watching this, Cedric understood the prince's feelings weren't just rumor. He meant to marry her. Cedric suddenly asked for tomorrow's meeting to be cancelled. Maybe because of Founding Day, the city was packed with festival crowds. Erna asked Ariel if she planned to go to the ball that night. Ariel said she had more important things to do than attend a ball. In the middle of the street stood a crystal elephant that looked almost alive. Erna joked that if they could take its scales, they'd sell for a fortune. He quickly explained that it sheds them on its own, and people simply collect them. The price depended on the condition, but even then they were expensive. A moment later, Ariel ran into Cedric at the festival, and he looked worried. He immediately asked why she was roaming the city instead of being at the ball. When she asked why he had rushed over from the palace, Cedric said he came to enjoy himself. Ariel noticed a tent with festival gambling games that only appeared on Founding Day. She suggested they try rainbow roulettes together. Cedric briefly took her snack to check if it was safe. After seeing the coloring was natural, he gave it back. Cedric guessed she was taking a break from work. Sometimes people need a day to relax. Ariel agreed, but said she wasn't there for fun. She had come for the open auction, which was about to start. Still, Ariel kept her real reason secret. After enough questions, she finally gave Cedric one clue: sperm whale. He tried to figure out what she planned to buy. The auction began, and the prices were immediately outrageous. Cedric proposed a game: guess the final bid, and whoever got closer would win. Ariel said a bet like that needed stakes. Cedric suggested the loser grant the winner one wish. Ariel agreed, as long as it wasn't too expensive or took too much time. He asked what exactly she considered too much. Ariel said they could decide that together if it came up. She was a little uneasy, but she didn't think Cedric would ask for anything too crazy. The auction started. Some bids were 200,000 BIs, others reached a full million. Even a small bronze statue sold for 1,000,000 bis. Strangely, Cedric kept winning, while Ariel's guesses were always slightly off. Then the sperm whale lot finally came up, and Ariel grew excited. There was no rule stopping her from joining the bidding herself. The auction opened with the whale's blubber. Bids jumped from 800,000 to 1,000,000, then 1.2 million. When Cedric asked what she was waiting for, Ariel said it was still too early to bid. Then, near the end, all the byproducts were listed together with a starting price of just 5,000 bisos. Realizing that included tendons, fat, and whiskers, Ariel made the first bid. She left the auction pleased while Erna carried out boxes of the goods. Even the knight could tell those items were worth far more than they looked. This world was a lot like Ariel's old one, and most perfume materials had some equivalent here. But one thing had no substitute: sperm whale ambergris. Called the treasure of the sea, it makes perfume last longer and gives it a richer, deeper scent. And Ariel had just gotten it for an incredible price. When she stepped outside, fireworks lit up the sky. As the crowd thickened, Cedric suggested they move somewhere else. Then he suddenly pressed Ariel against a wall, saying he was worried the crowd would crush her. Ariel asked if he was okay because he was acting very strange. But Cedric barely listened. He said this wouldn't work, and they should go up to the roof. He apologized first, then quickly picked Ariel up to carry her through the crowd. After a few quick moves, they reached the rooftop and could see the whole street below. Then Cedric brought up their little betting game and said he'd won. Ariel smiled and told him to go ahead and make his wish. She expected him to ask for 10 free bottles of healing perfume, but with a small smile, he asked for a short hug instead. He said it would only take a second and he'd let go right away. Ariel quickly reminded him they'd broken up a long time ago. She also warned that if someone saw them, rumors would spread fast. Still, wanting to prove him wrong, she agreed. Cedric pulled her in and held her tight. He smelled like pine, and to Ariel, that 1 second felt endless. Afterward, Cedric thanked her for granting such a strange request. By the next morning, Lady Winston had clearly slept in from exhaustion. Rena reminded her that today was the interview. She also teased that Ariel had been calling for the Duke in her sleep. Nothing happened after that, but Ariel kept replaying last night in her head. Just as expected, Khan had used the festival to send assassins after her. So Cedric decided he wouldn't leave Ariel's side anymore if it meant keeping her safe. A man named Lavi came for the interview. Ariel asked him to introduce himself first. He said he loved perfume, graduated from the Academy's chemistry department, and ranked second in his class. His dream was to become a great perfumer like Ariel Winston. He went on about how shocked he was the first time he smelled her work, especially that fresh, rich rose scent he'd never found anywhere else. To him, her perfume was like a textbook. Ariel then announced that both applicants had passed. Cedric was stunned that she wanted to hire total beginners, but Ariel said experience wasn't required. What mattered was that both candidates had the skills she needed, and out of everyone, they showed the most passion for perfume. Rena and Ern were thrilled to welcome new coworkers. There were still a few things the new shop needed. First, good workers and enough space. Second, people needed to know who Ariel Winston was. And third, a new perfume to tie it all together. Ariel said she'd be locking herself in the lab for a while to make it. Half a month later, the grand opening finally arrived. Ariel proudly announced that her perfume shop was reopening. Everyone wanted to see what had changed. The new hires were especially nervous since this was their first real job. Ariel told Rena and Ern to guide them. Then an investor showed up at the opening and gave Ariel a gift, even though they'd never worked together before. Inside the box were Ariel's crystals. She thanked him, while the new workers quietly wondered what her connection to Cedric Evans was. The fifth prince also ordered a barrier placed around the store. When asked why, the official simply said it was for protection. Ariel thanked the blonde prince for being so thoughtful. Soon the doors opened and the staff began welcoming customers. Thanks to the new workers, the service was warm and polite. Ariel quickly realized how much easier things were with a bigger team. Then one customer asked what perfume Ariel herself was wearing. Ariel said it was a brand new scent launching today and offered her a sample. The fragrance was rich and sweet. Vanilla gave it a soft sweetness, while jasmine at the base made it feel lively and elegant. It was made to last a long time. Ariel said the scent was deep and mysterious. She added that it used a special ingredient, with amber supporting the base note. The customer was amazed it could stay on the skin from morning to night. Rena then reported that half the charm aesthetic stock was already gone. What shocked them most was that their bestseller hadn't even been advertised. Ariel said Aisha was wrong. The perfume was being advertised right now. The ad was simply Ariel wearing it as she welcomed guests. After becoming the May Queen, she figured she didn't need extra promotion. Ariel Winston herself had become the product people wanted. Even she hadn't expected the stock to disappear so fast. Even with all the chaos, the shop did great, so Ariel suggested a group celebration. Right then, Duke Evans walked in and asked if he could join. He'd somehow learned the schedule again and showed up exactly at closing. Cedric said that after smelling today's fragrance, he knew she'd launched something new. He called the scent beautiful and dangerously seductive. The knight and maid quickly excused themselves, claiming they were going to get more food. Ariel noticed Cedric couldn't stop looking at her. He pointed out that she kept avoiding his eyes, then said his own gaze was only on one person. That was when Ariel was forced to face it. Cedric liked her. After that night, she couldn't sleep and couldn't believe Cedric might really have feelings for Ariel. With her thoughts a mess, she went out for some air. She told herself that even if Cedric liked Lady Winston, as long as he was still tied to Lena, he would follow the original story. But if the plot started changing, his future might end up linked to Ariel's instead. Then she suddenly spotted the heroine below her window, out in the middle of the night. Lena apologized and said she hadn't realized the workday was already over. Since Ariel couldn't sleep anyway, she invited her in for tea. Lena looked embarrassed and explained that where she came from, people often worked late into the night. She said she had business with Lady Ariel. Ariel thought Lena seemed kind, even though in the original story she'd planned to kill her with a poisonous perfume. Since she accepted custom orders, Ariel asked if Lena wanted one. Lena said the scent itself didn't matter. What she wanted was a magical perfume. Ariel apologized, saying she didn't take magical perfume orders. They were risky, needed a large deposit, and if something went wrong, she'd be fully responsible. But Lena asked her to hear the full story first. She explained that she was Sendor and only staying in the Beller Empire for a short time. She had come to treat an old illness with no known cause. After failing to find help in other countries, she came here, but she got the same answer again, until she heard about Ariel Winston. People said Ariel was a genius perfumer who might be able to help. Ariel replied that she wasn't a magician, just someone who made perfumes. Lena said she understood, but even so, Ariel might still be able to help. Ariel didn't remember Elena ever acting like this in the original story. But then again, the heroine would always try to help if she could. Ariel said she might not be able to cure the illness, but she could try easing the symptoms. Lena said she'd send the deposit tomorrow and then took her leave. After she left, Ariel wondered if she had only imagined the changes. Maybe the original story still couldn't really be altered. The girl went to the dungeon and promised she'd get Theo out somehow. Then Ariel headed to the only place in the Empire where holy water flowed. Ern explained that people came there to heal and purify themselves, and priests used the holy water for blessings. Ariel wanted to use it to make a perfume that might ease Elena's pain, but to use holy water properly, she needed a blessing first and had to go up the path. At the top, priests were blessing visitors. One blessed Ariel in the name of the goddess of fate, Selena, granting her peace and calm. He added that the goddess would light her path and bless her always. Then Ariel realized the one giving the blessing was actually the fifth prince, who asked what she was doing there. He said they were short on people, so he came to help since even among the imperial family, his divine power was strong. Ariel explained that she had an order and wanted to make a healing perfume. Sadly, holy water couldn't be taken outside the temple grounds, though maybe she could work with certain herbs instead. There was Celestine grass, a plant with divine power. Soaked in water with a prayer, it turns the water holy. But that herb couldn't be taken either. So the prince gave Ariel some holy water and suggested she make the perfume right there in the temple. Ariel thanked him and said she'd brought all the other ingredients just in case. She put the perfume together quickly, though only because she'd already spent so much time researching it. Then Ariel noticed Sasha and Eileen nearby. Sasha wasn't feeling well and had come for a priest's blessing. Ariel said she was there to make perfume. She used Lily of the Valley as the base and added holy water for a blessing effect. Then she handed Sasha the bottle and sprayed the fresh perfume on her. Sasha's fever dropped at once, and breathing became much easier. Ariel was pleased to see it working. The fifth prince was stunned. He'd never seen ordinary perfume do anything like that. Ariel explained that the effect would only last 3 to 4 hours, but it could still be helpful. The prince suggested making more and giving it to people in need. It would ease the priest's workload and help those who couldn't easily reach a church. Ariel promised to make as much of the healing perfume as she could. She explained that she'd mixed holy water with magical herbs that relieve pain. She also used the Mayflower, lily of the valley, for its light scent. When Lena tried the perfume on herself, she found it much easier to breathe. She explained the perfume wouldn't cure Elena, but it could ease her pain a lot. Elena held Ariel's hands and promised that once she returned home, she'd spread the word about her perfume. Ariel looked away, thinking this might also save her brother. She went straight to his cage and woke her little brother. He asked where she'd been, and she said she had errands to handle. Lena gave him the perfume and said it would help with the pain. She called it a pain reliever made by the Empire's finest perfumer. She told him to use it every 4 hours, then whispered that she'd secretly poured some out for him, and he had to hide it well. Then a girl suddenly showed up and asked what they were doing. Researcher Kana said she had come in without the leader knowing, and warned that the girl might tell on them. She took the perfume and asked if it actually worked. The girl said this would make their experiments much easier. The leader told Fila to report anything unusual. That night, there was an official dinner with the kingdom, so he said they needed to get back to the palace before it was too late. They reminded Elena to get close to the right people. His obsession ran so deep that during the last founding celebration, he dealt with all the mercenaries himself. Luckily, Evans killed them before their boss could get any answers from them. They laughed at how the Duke kept throwing decency aside, and the informant asked to handle him. Elena told him he could rely on her. Evans thought it was a good day. Too bad the weather didn't match. Cian heard they had special guests from that woman from there. Evans said he thought Elena was wearing the same perfume as Lady Ariel. The fifth prince admitted he used to hate Cedric for being good at everything, but now he was actually thankful for him. At the imperial dinner, the Duke met the heroine again, and Lena said fate had brought them together once more. Cedric said her perfume seemed familiar, and that's why he remembered her. Strangely, the heroine said she didn't wear perfume, yet the Duke still caught a scent he knew. She told him she had met Ariel Winston at the Spring Festival. The Duke said he invested in Ariel and was impressed from the moment he saw her business plan. He knew her talent would make the shop a success, though even he hadn't expected results this big. Elena started to worry that she had crossed paths with Ariel again, because following the plan might make him dislike her instead. She quickly went to greet the prince and princess of the ball. Kian instantly guessed she might be using a scent similar to Ariel's. She said she'd really wanted to meet them both, and mentioned that the prince had once run his own business. She added that she couldn't wait for Ariel's perfumes to reach her kingdom too. The prince proudly showed off the perfume Ariel had made just for him. Cian suggested she try it, and Elena said it would be a great honor. Elena realized Winston was so well known that even the imperial family favored her, and going against her would be foolish. To rebuild the Cane Guild, Ariel's talent was necessary, but if someone that famous vanished, especially someone known to the imperial family, it would cause a huge uproar. So Elena decided she needed a new plan. Then Duke Evans appeared behind her and asked what she was doing there. A moment later, he asked if she had ever seen a certain mark 16 years ago. He spoke about his suspicion that she had witnessed some strange magic or human experiments. She realized he suspected her of spying for Kane, but she couldn't tell why. Avoiding his eyes, she said it was unpleasant to hear, and that she had never seen or heard anything like that. He apologized, saying he was only investigating. He asked her to tell him if she ever learned anything. Evans still remembered the smell of the place where he had been locked up 16 years ago. Cedric was certain Elena carried that same scent. He reviewed all of Lady Elena's documents, but everything checked out. His advisor also confirmed her identity was real. The only strange part was that her younger brother vanished when they were children. Rick said that when she was 8, she disappeared with her brother and came back alone a few weeks later. It was also known that Kane kidnapped young children for human experiments. If Winbell's brother became one of Kane's test subjects, then Lena may have joined Kane after escaping to save him. Even so, Cedric still couldn't understand one thing. Why risk sneaking into the palace? She might be a key accomplice, so the Duke ordered a full investigation. If it uncovered something important, Cedric might learn why Kane was so obsessed with Lady Winston. Then he might find a way to stop this madness. Rena reported that Ariel had received an invitation from the Imperial Palace, from Princess Lena. It was great news, since the princess was inviting a perfumer to her birthday ball. Ariel nervously thought about what gift to prepare. Something fancy, but not too common. The maid suggested using the princess's love of travel. Euphoria Island, Tenzari. She'd been almost everywhere, especially the snowy north. People said she often visited the north because she wanted to see if the old legends were true. Ariel decided to go there next week and make a perfume for the princess. A week later, the three of them set off for the snowy region. Ariel admired the snow for the first time in a while. Rena asked if she'd ever been there before, since their home had no winter. Then Ariel was surprised to spot the Duke there too. He said he was there on an investigation. Ariel explained that she had been invited to the princess's ball and wanted to make a perfume based on the princess's favorite place. The Duke said the princess liked this area because of a fairy tale, though it was really just a natural event. He warned that it would get colder by evening, so Ariel should head back before then. Ariel carefully worked on a new perfume formula, using her skill and experience. Erna and Rena returned carrying bags full of food. Erna told them to rest because he'd take care of dinner. His cooking turned out so good that it amazed both girls. They hadn't come to relax, but with a place like this, it almost became a vacation. Ariel said that after moving here, all she had done was work. At first, she was stunned that she had ended up in Ariel's body, but in the end, it felt like a blessing, because this Ariel let her make perfumes again. The dream she had wanted so badly in her past life had come true here. She realized things had somehow worked out for the best. Winston wondered who Evans had come to meet. Rena said they'd clean up and go back to the cottage, while Ariel stayed a little longer before joining them. Ariel fought to stay awake, knowing Rena would scold her if she fell asleep outside, but she eventually drifted off and dreamed about the original Ariel poisoning the heroine. When she woke up, a worried Duke was already beside her. He told her it was dangerous to sleep out there and that she should go inside. She said she dreamed that he had left her, and he answered that he never would. Ariel noticed Cedric's mood had darkened. He said he didn't even want to imagine that happening in a dream. Cedric put his jacket over her, saying it was getting cold. Ariel realized the warmth was what woke her. She asked if he had really stayed beside her the whole time. The Duke said he couldn't just let a lady catch cold. Seeing her asleep alone, Evans thought it was too dangerous to leave her there. Worried she'd freeze, he moved closer to warm her. Ariel admitted she was still cold, so the Duke pulled her into a tight hug to warm her with his body heat. She knew she shouldn't let herself get swept away by this man, but her feelings blurred her judgment, and when her ex kissed her, she couldn't push him away. She apologized for not resisting at all. Then the northern lights appeared, and he said Aurora had decided to show herself. Ariel caught a lovely scent, and Cedric said it came from a single flower. The flowers began to glow, and Ariel said it was incredible. The scent felt like lily, jasmine, and iris blended together. The Duke explained they bloomed only at dawn when the northern lights appeared. This was the phenomenon known as the Fairy of Aurora. That scent brought back memories of becoming May Queen and opening her new shop. Just one breath of it woke those happy moments. The princess had said she wanted to relive her childhood memories. Now Ariel knew exactly what gift to make. The man asked whether Elna had managed to charm the Duke, but she admitted she hadn't gotten closer to him at all. She had only made him more suspicious. She said she kept trying to talk to him, but he ignored her and turned away. She apologized for failing the plan. He got angry, grabbed her chin, and said he thought a pretty face would be enough to win the Duke over. Then he said that if not, Elna was useless. She quickly said the Duke would be at the princess's birthday dinner, and she'd try again there. But he shut that down and said Phil would give her new orders in the morning. The day of the princess's birthday ball finally arrived. Ariel was told that His Grace the Duke had already arrived. He told her she looked especially beautiful today. Then he gave her a small gift, saying she should accept it as thanks since he had escorted her several times already. Cedric asked if she had picked the gift herself. When she answered, he smiled and said the color was beautiful. Ariel felt embarrassed when the Duke took her hand, especially after their kiss. Ariel started telling herself last night had just been a mistake. At the ball, the princess welcomed them and teased that they had shown up together again. Ariel offered her congratulations, saying the Empire was lucky the princess was born. The princess was happy they came and told them to enjoy the night. Cedric went big and gave her gold bars as a present. The princess said she would put them to good use. Then Ariel decided to show what a real birthday gift looked like. Everyone finally understood why she had disappeared for days. She had been making a new perfume. The fifth prince noticed Elena in the palace again. He decided to watch her closely, just in case. Ariel kept staring at Cedric, even while trying to pull herself together. Then a doctor came in and quickly apologized for interrupting. Cedric told him to examine Ariel's ankle. The doctor confirmed there was nothing wrong, just like Ariel had said. That made her realize she had only wanted an excuse to kiss him. Cedric said it was a relief that the injury was minor. Then he asked her for another dance. Ariel thought a face like his should be illegal, but then she remembered Cedric had said he wanted to talk. He told her he felt calm whenever she was near, and at first he thought it was only his madness fading. Now he knew the truth. He liked Ariel Winston. But before he could finish, Ariel rushed out of the hall. She couldn't believe she hadn't seen it sooner when every moment had made it obvious. Cedric caught her and asked her not to run, but Ariel said she wanted to be honest with herself, and she couldn't do that beside him. She tried to explain, but he cut her off with a kiss. Cedric told her not to worry. To him, Ariel was the main character. She wondered if she could really change the story's path. What mattered most was whether Cedric would love her true self, not just the role she had in the plot. Ariel decided she would never know unless she acted first. Things would be fine. The story had already begun to change. Now she wasn't just Ariel Winston, a side character, but a girl from the real world. Then Ariel suddenly vanished, and strange smoke flooded the room. Cedric knew right away this attack was Can's doing. Rick shouted that they had to get out fast because something was very wrong. Cedric ran outside, where the prince rushed over and asked what had happened. He explained that someone had hidden paralyzing smoke devices all through the palace. At a set time, they went off and released the gas. The guards were already using a neutralizer to control it. Their suspect was Elena, who had been wandering the palace acting harmless. And since she also appeared at the official event between the kingdoms, it was clearly planned. When they questioned her about who sent her, she kept saying she knew nothing. Cedric said his investigation suggested Can might be holding the Windbell family hostage, forcing Elena to obey. After she and her younger brother were kidnapped and only Elena came back, his location had stayed unknown. Cedric had recently shown her Canna's mark, and her reaction made it clear she recognized it. Looking away, Elena asked if they could save her brother if she told them everything. Cedric said it was possible, but he couldn't promise. Even so, they had to try everything, and Elena agreed to tell them all she knew. She explained they wanted to use Canna's influence over the powerful demonic beasts they had made. Those beasts needed a special chemical to stay under control. Cedric said their methods could never fully control them. That was why they wanted Ariel's power, to completely subdue the demonic beasts. 5 hours passed after Ariel disappeared. She lay paralyzed on a stone table. When the man saw she was awake, he walked over. Ariel recognized him at once, the same man who had offered to escort her at the ball. He introduced himself as Rod, the guild's second leader. The moment she saw him, Ariel knew he was the gang's boss. Rod claimed he hadn't kidnapped her. He was only granting her wish. He said it had happened long ago, so she might not remember. Then Rod declared he would help her recover her memories. The Empress announced that they had rooted themselves in the system again, so there was a chance to trace them. After the gas attack and Ariel's disappearance, the Imperial Palace held an emergency meeting. Cedric declared he would lead his forces at once and crush Khan completely. The Imperial Guard joined the Evans Knights and infiltrated the base. Inside, they were swarmed by demonic beasts. There was no end to them, and the fifth prince took command himself. Deep inside, they found a huge garden growing onyxia. Then the giant crystal powering the flowers began crackling and sparking. They had failed again, but this time the chance of creating the creature was high. They even praised the result, saying the second subject had chosen the ducal family and they were sure it would work. Ariel began remembering the time she and Cedric were locked up together as children. Seeing how badly he was hurt, she offered to treat him. She had a miracle medicine her mother made, and it really did heal young Cedric. Her mother had been the Empire's greatest alchemist, able to make almost anything, but Ariel hadn't seen her mother since ending up in this place. After a carriage accident, she opened her eyes and found herself there. Cedric had been brought there too after his carriage was attacked. He said they were both now in the kidnappers' hands. Ariel said they should escape together as soon as they could. They were experimenting on Cedric, and their notes said he had the highest magic compatibility. Test subject number 6 had died from magic toxicity. The red-haired boy asked his father to let him take part in the test. Even through all that pain, Ariel kept easing others' suffering with her mother's elixirs. The kids realized Can were complete monsters for torturing children for a whole week. Ariel said escaping with her mom would be best, the three of them together. The redhead laughed it off and called himself the future second lead. Then he said he knew where her mother was and told her to follow him. Those memories stabbed Cedric with a thin, sharp pain. The crystal looked ready to explode from all the magic packed inside. Cedric tried to protect the girl helping him. Grabbing a crystal shard, he stepped in front of the redhead. Cedric told the prince he remembered everything and now knew who had kidnapped Ariel. Ariel remembered it all too, even finding her mother's dead body. After that day, they forced her to make perfumes for their experiments. The evil boy kept pushing her, saying she would never leave that place. Smirking, he told her she belonged to him. Ariel remembered that they wanted to use her in her mother's place. They had also tried to remove Cedric so she would be tied to him alone. But an accident stopped a major experiment, and in the end, it was Rod who brought Can to ruin. He wondered what kind of future they could make if they joined forces. The insane second leader told Ariel to stay with him and remake the world. Disgusted, Ariel said that would never happen. The redhead answered that then he would force her. His next experiment was meant to brainwash her. Ariel had fought too hard to get this far. She refused to become cannon fodder. At last, Cedric reached the right place. Rod was shocked that he had made it there in such awful condition. Cedric drew his sword and told Ariel to hold on a little longer. He would save her. With a few blows, he smashed the crystals and broke the enchantments. Angry that Cedric had interfered, Rod threw a grenade that released strange smoke. It was smoke from the demon world, meant to drive him deeper into madness. Rod sneered that no matter what, Cedric was still just a pathetic little beast. Knights burst in, asking if His Highness was safe, but Cedric lost control and attacked his own men. The fifth prince stepped in and shielded Erna with divine power. He begged Cedric to come back to himself, saying it mattered not only for him, but for Lady Winston too. Voices screamed through Cedric's head, urging him to kill everyone around him. He lunged again, broke through the prince's divine power, and turned on the knights. Ariel jumped in front of Erna so Cedric wouldn't hurt her by mistake. She desperately tried to bring him back. Then, after a long struggle, Cedric finally recognized Ariel. Ariel knew he wasn't fully gone yet, and she had a sedative pill in her pocket just in case. Without a word, Cedric pulled her close in a rough embrace. The monk began treating Cian. The knight promised to return with good news, leaving Ariel to handle things herself. The symptoms only got worse, and dealing with them alone would be hard. She hated this method, but she had no other choice. Ariel put the pill in her mouth and kissed Cedric deeply. It worked. The strong sedative would soon calm him down. At last, Cedric came back to his senses and spoke. He held Ariel tight and said he never wanted to go through that again. They chained up everyone involved, including Cian. The redhead said Cedric was still a monster, even if he was his father's successful creation. Cedric had demonic blood in his veins, and that could never change. Cedric answered that he didn't regret his mixed blood at all. Yes, it had side effects, but it also gave him great power. With that strength, Cedric said he could tear anyone apart like a rat. Ariel asked how to completely erase the side effects of human experiments. Rod called her naive. No one in this world could cleanse a blackened soul. Once a body had mixed with demonic blood, it could never go back to what it was before. Ariel's face tightened in frustration when she realized she still didn't have the answer she wanted. Evan said he doesn't care anymore. He's already found where he belongs. Red insisted she just wants a normal life, making perfume like any other merchant. Now, though, she can get things she never could before. She asked why he'd think she'd waste time on childish world domination games, especially since he's the one headed to prison. When he shouted about all he did to meet Ariel, she coolly offered him a perfume that could kill with one press. They even offered to send him home by teleportation. There was only one condition. One person could use it at a time. At last, the missing children returned home. Under Duke Evans's command, the demonic creatures were defeated. But right at the end, guild leader Khan used some strange magic on the Duke. It left him in terrible pain, and no one dared get close. Lady Ariel Winston was the one who saved him. Now the Imperial Palace wants to contact her in case something like this happens again. After Khan was taken down and the mess was cleaned up, Rod Rosero, the guildmaster and main culprit, was punished too. He was sentenced to life as a slave. As long as he bears the brand, he'll be tracked wherever he goes. And if he tries to leave the country, the branded body part will explode. After reading the newspaper, Ariel's staff said she really does live an interesting life. The papers praised her as a heroine who saved the Duke from madness. Ariel became wildly popular, and people kept asking about what happened. Some even claimed she threw herself in front of Cedric, and all kinds of silly rumors spread. Still, Ariel didn't mind too much. The rumors boosted sales. After a checkup with the court doctor and some rest, she came back refreshed. And Rena took great care of the shop while she was gone. By now, the staff could run everything fine even without the head perfumer there. They guided customers well and explained how long the scents lasted on the skin. Seeing that, Ariel felt the shop would be fine from now on. Then she learned a guest was waiting upstairs. Vin. He and his sister apologized for dropping by suddenly, but they wanted to thank Ariel in person. Elena also wanted to admit it had all started because of her. Ariel told her what mattered was that it ended well, and she understood Elena had her reasons. The palace ruled that because Elena helped expose the Khan Guild and was also a victim of human experiments, she wouldn't be punished. Still, Elena said if Ariel ever needs help, she'll come running. Asked about her future, Lena said she wants to become an apprentice at the magical tower. It fit her well. She'd always dreamed of becoming a mage and traveling the continent. She wanted to use magic to save people in trouble, just like she once was. Her brother, meanwhile, dreamed of becoming a great knight like Duke Evans. She then asked what the perfume was for, guessing it had to do with the experiment side effects. Ariel explained Rod had it made to improve the experiments. If people forget the pain, you can torture them over and over. So Ariel decided to give them the Onyxia perfume. She explained Lena had also been injected with demonic blood. It wasn't as bad as Cedric's case, but she still had flare-ups sometimes. This scent should help during those moments. After they left, Ariel stepped outside and saw Evans waiting. He asked her to spend the evening with him. She was shocked when she learned the place was so far away they'd need teleportation. Cedric said he was going to Osendrick and asked her to come with him. Ariel asked why they needed to go there. Cedric only said they should visit first and talk after. When they arrived, a kind old woman welcomed them and noted the long trip. She was the high priestess. She asked if this was the lady Cedric had told her about. The priestess came closer, and Ariel couldn't understand why someone so important was inspecting her so carefully. Then the old woman asked Cedric to leave, saying she had something private to discuss with Ariel. As soon as he stepped out, she revealed she knew Ariel came from another world. She quickly added that she wasn't here to interrogate her. Ariel wondered how much the priestess knew. Did she even know about Earth? The priestess said she understood Ariel's worries because she'd seen this before. In all her long life, it had only happened twice. Ariel asked if others had really come from her world. The priestess said they all adjusted eventually, though Ariel adapted much faster. She explained Ariel stood out right away. She had no divine mark, and her soul gave off a different energy. Ariel then realized Cedric had figured out she was from another world and brought her here because of it. The old priestess told her his worries were unnecessary. When Cedric returned, she assured him Ariel was completely healthy. Ariel wondered if he'd suspected she had gone through experiments too. After all, Rod had been obsessed with her, and she had been with Cedric in the past. Ariel added that she used to do chemical experiments in place of her mother. She was right. Cedric hadn't felt any demonic energy from her. He then said that when he went into the sewers, all his old memories came back, and Ariel was the only reason he kept moving forward. So if it wasn't just one experiment that helped him, what else could explain it? Ariel had a guess, but no idea how to say it. All known treatments for his condition use ingredients from the demon world. In the original story, Cedric's symptoms were treated like an incurable illness, but there was one other method. She just wasn't sure she should bring it up. Still, if the author wrote it that way, maybe it wasn't total nonsense. After hesitating, she admitted the second reason his symptoms eased might be love. Cedric's madness came from demonic blood failing to fully blend with his own. To fix it, they had to erase the demonic nature inside that mixed blood. One way was to wash it out with human nature, feelings only humans can have. Ariel quickly said it was only a theory. Even she thought it sounded like a fairy tale, and maybe like she just liked him too much. Cedric replied that strange as it sounded, that idea did make sense. If she were the same as him, his symptoms should have eased the first time they met. At first he thought it was just memory effects, but later too many things happened that couldn't be explained. He had planned to confess somewhere better, at a better time, but he couldn't hold it in anymore. He'd fallen for Ariel Winston. He wasn't sure he even had the right to say it, but he loved her deeply. Ariel confessed she felt the same. Then a strange thought crossed her mind. If she had really stepped into a fairy tale, this would be the moment where the end appeared. A month later, Ariel woke up in her own bed. Cedric was beside her, asking if she slept well. She had started staying at his estate more often under the excuse of being his personal doctor, and over that month, the two had grown even closer. At the same time, Ariel kept expanding her perfume business. She even opened a second shop in the Magellan district. Charlotte congratulated her on the opening and on getting through all her business troubles. Ariel suggested staying late so they could keep the perfume from selling out too fast. Elena also wanted to meet with her. Ariel hadn't even known the department store had a restaurant. Cedric had chosen the place, and it was lovely, and clearly very expensive too. Ariel noticed that the more she looked at him, the more shy he got. To her, it was the perfect dinner. Then Cedric said again that Ariel filled all his thoughts and that he'd fallen for her. There was no stopping those feelings now. Saying every day with her made him happy. He dropped to one knee and proposed. Ariel answered right away, yes. Now they'd wake up and fall asleep beside each other every day. That night, they simply talked about where Ariel should open her third shop. She wondered if people overseas would like her perfume too. They kept talking until dawn. Then he moved close without warning, like it was the most natural thing in the world, and she closed her eyes at once. His scent filled her lungs, and in that moment she became sure of something. Even if Ariel breathed in that scent for the rest of her life, she'd never get tired of it. At last, the wedding day arrived. Looking in the mirror, Ariel felt all her effort had paid off. Even with crowds of customers, she had still made sure to get at least 10 hours of sleep. The hardest part was not being able to see Cedric that day. That was because of the tradition that keeps the bride and groom apart for the week before the wedding. Rena told her the wait would be worth it. Soon, she'd be Ariel Evans. At last, the bride arrived at the Imperial Palace's Beller Ballroom. The priest told them to face each other and say their vows. The groom vowed to love only one woman, his bride. The bride vowed to love only one man, her groom. Before the priestess could tell them to exchange rings, they were already kissing. Ariel pulled back just long enough to ask Cedric to put the ring on her. They say rings are the chains that bind a marriage. Then the old priestess declared Winston and Evans husband and wife. Jaina came in person to congratulate Ariel at the wedding. She mentioned a band of robbers had been active near the western gates, which might make visits harder. The Duke said he was already sending knights there, and the bandits would be crushed soon. Charlotte kept grinning as she called Ariel by Cedric's last name. Ariel still couldn't believe it, and the blonde teased that it was because they still hadn't had their first night as a married couple. Ariel said she'd be happy just relaxing and talking with Evans. The next evening, they went to the Isle of Love, Euphoria. She loved the pink sand even more now that she was there with her husband. They didn't stay out long because it was late and getting cold. So Cedric suggested they return to the villa. Ariel joked that all she'd done that day was eat. Cedric answered by offering her more wine. She was about to ask what kind it was, but suddenly spilled her glass. Cedric said she worries about the strangest things. Smiling, he wiped the wine from her hands and suggested they go upstairs. Ariel knew what that meant. It was their wedding night. Even though Cedric tried to act casual, he was clearly nervous. Ariel smiled, said she was fine, and headed upstairs. Her shy reaction made Cedric laugh, though the timing wasn't great. Ariel pushed him onto the bed and kissed him deeply. Then she realized Cedric was just as nervous when he moved above her. The next day, they went to the beach. Ariel asked if Cedric knew the look on his face was a little too playful. That evening, a village festival was set to begin. The two relaxed easily since no one knew who they were. Then Cedric suggested she open a shop there too, but she suddenly overheard people talking about a fortune teller nearby. Curious, Ariel decided to step into the tent. Inside, she recognized the fortune teller who had been right before. The woman was surprised to see Ariel there and guessed she was on her honeymoon. She said it was an honor to meet such a glowing couple. Then she asked them to choose 3 cards to reveal their future. The reading showed they were truly meant for each other. Their future would be bright, and even if trouble came, it wouldn't last long. She also said 2 little angels would come into their lives. According to the fortune teller, Ariel would have twins. Ariel was stunned. She hadn't even thought she might be pregnant. Cedric, though, was already thinking about hiring the best midwife and a mage. He said that if the fortune was true, it wasn't bad news at all. The fortune teller then asked if Ariel wanted another reading. Before, Ariel had drawn a card for her destined partner that showed an old man, so she asked about his health. After drawing 3 more cards, she learned his life wasn't in danger, and any problems could be solved. Cedric said twins might brighten the old man's lonely life, but it would be hard on Ariel. Ariel replied that at least half of this was probably just for fun. When they got home, Rena ran straight into Ariel's arms. Since she returned early, the staff quickly put together a welcome back party. Rena asked why she had come back sooner than expected. Ariel said she wanted to start making a new perfume right away. Everyone said they'd help with anything she needed. This time, Ariel wanted to capture Euphoria's sea breeze. She added notes of palm trees and tropical fruit, plus musk and pine-like wood. As she kept working, Ariel noticed Cedric had been waiting beside her for a while. He said she looked so focused that he just stayed quiet and watched, and she only let him smell the new scent. She chose to call the perfume Happiness, but it was really the start of a whole series, with the sea breeze scent as the first one. When asked how many she'd make, Ariel said she didn't know. It might never end. She kept wondering what a scent that gives people happiness would smell like. Maybe flowers promised to bees and butterflies. She had thought about it for a long time, but now she finally knew. The scent of happiness was the scent of a person. No flower or costly spice could beat the smell of someone you love. For Ariel and Cedric, they had become each other's source of joy, their true happiness. And that's it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the story of the Tyrant's Perfumer Only. This one had a lot of requests, so I decided to bring you the whole thing, beginning, middle, and end, all in one video. I really hope you guys liked it enough for me to keep doing more stories in this format, because honestly, it was a fun one to cover. And come on, a villain who makes perfumes and accidentally makes the most cold-hearted duke in the kingdom fall for her? We need more of this. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the romance and the story's vibe. I'm genuinely curious to see your takes on these two. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Kisses, and see you next time.